Chapter 1348. Grand Master Sun Yang, Martial Master Meng Hu, Yang Yingyuan, and the other 8 Grand Masters, as well as many students of the Sky Academy, were all cannon fodder. This made Yi Hai realize that the Sky Academy had sensed Chu Yang's amazing strength, so they used these cannon fodder to explore the way. Of course, these people were all cannon fodder for Xie Wanjin and Liu Yunpeng. But is this really the result? Yi Hai didn't know. To put it bluntly, this was just Luo Xiu's one-sided statement or some kind of wrong feeling. Let's wait and see. The answer will be revealed soon. Yi Hai left with complicated emotions. He continued to monitor Chu Yang's situation and then came back to report to Luo Xiu. As for when Luo Xiu would choose to fight with Chu Yang, he didn't know, but the premise was that Chu Yang could survive. Of course, Luo Xiu was not the only one who received the news. The soul-melting sage, the Dharmalaksana sage, the Nirvana sage, and Xie Wanjin also received the news immediately. At this moment, the 7 of them were together. There was no cold wind in this place, but it was unusually cold. The sky was pitch black, the ground was pitch black, and the ice was pitch black. If one didn't get close, one wouldn't be able to tell which parts of the land were black and which parts of the ice were black. This was the real land of frost. Except for these 7 people, the rest had not reached this place. At this moment, there was a black ice cave in front of Xie Wanjin and Liu Yunpeng. The bottom of the black ice cave was pitch black. It was very deep and bottomless. The surroundings were also very quiet. It was so quiet that they could hear each other's breathing and heartbeat. The cave of frost. Phew. The soul-melting sage exhaled a white breath. If it were not for the spiritual qi, a layer of ice would have formed on his face. It's impossible to expect students to explore such a bottomless ice cave. As he spoke, his magic power turned into a light bird and flew down toward the cave of frost. In the ice cave, the light bird was like a bright lamp in the endless night. In the pitch-black ice cave, it tore through the darkness and shone with an extremely weak light. After falling for about 10 feet, the endless cold air eroded and froze the light bird in an instant. However, in just a moment, the light bird melted the ice on its body and continued to fly down, but its light was getting dimmer and dimmer. This meant that the magic power within the light bird was being rapidly consumed. After descending for less than 500 feet, the light bird silently disappeared. Hiss, the 7 of them couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The soul-merging sage was a Nirvana realm martial artist. His magic power had transformed into a light bird, but it had only descended for less than 500 feet before its magic power was completely wiped out by the cold air in the ice cave. Such a terrifying icy power. If they were to go down rashly, they would be frozen to death if they were not careful. The hearts of the 7 instantly turned cold. Although there was a secret of time and space below, they were very covetous. However, such a cold power was too terrifying, especially when they did not know how deep the ice cave was. It's impossible to let fools explore for us in such an ice cave, Xie Wanjin said. To be honest, he didn't dare to go down rashly. Even fools wouldn't be stupid enough to go down this ice cave. Liu Yunpeng also frowned. With such an ice cave, not to mention a Nirvana realm martial artist, even a life and death realm martial artist might not be able to protect themselves. Xiao Chang'e didn't say a word and directly turned to leave. Before anyone went down to explore, he absolutely couldn't go down. Chapter 1349. After that, Xie Wanjin and Liu Yunpeng hesitated for a while and then left separately. How could people with precious lives risk their lives? Whether it was Xiao Chang'e, Xiong Longxiang, Xie Wanjin, or Liu Yunpeng, they didn't need to risk their lives like this. Only the soul-melted sage, the Fa Xiong sage, and the Nirvana sage were left. The 3 of them frowned deeply. Who dared to go down the ice cave unless they were brave and fearless? Or perhaps those who wanted to stand out but couldn't find a way would try their best. Suddenly, the Nirvana sage said, "Do you think the wild dog will go down?" The soul-melted sage and the Fa Xiong sage both looked over. Then the soul-melted sage said, "Will he kill the wild dog in this ice cave?" After that, he immediately shook his head. "I'm afraid the wild dog is not that stupid." The old wild dog has enough secret skills, so he won't risk his life like this. Not stupid. The Fa Xiong sage said, you mean the wild dog will provoke Yang Yinyuan and the others, or the wild dog can kill them all one by one? After a pause, he added, the wild dog is indeed not stupid, but he is audacious. There should be no doubt that the wild dog will win. The Nirvana sage intervened and said, however, it's impossible for the wild dog to kill Yang Yinyuan and the others. What's more, the wild dog may dare to go down the ice cave. Obviously, the Nirvana sage had made a certain amount of mental preparation long ago, and there was a certain amount of casualties as a result. Of course, they couldn't accept unlimited casualties. The topic started with Nirvana's choice and ended with him in the end. Release the news, just treat it as fishing. If we can't catch the wild dog, we may catch other fools. After that, the Nirvana sage laughed, and so did the soul-melted sage and the Fa Xiong sage. They wouldn't lose anything by doing this. They were not worried that the secret skills of the Sky Academy or the secret skills of the Kuan Peng would fall into the hands of others. If any of them succeeded and obtained the space-time secret technique in the ice cave, they could just ambush them outside and kill them. They might even be able to obtain the space-time secret technique. Most likely, no one would take the bait. Of course, Wild Dog was the perfect bait. The three of them were already prepared for Xia Wanjin to lose to Chu Yang. In the end, the three of them also left. At the same time, they spread the news of the location of the ice cave. At this moment, on the other side, Chu Yang was still teaching Chen Dinghua a lesson like a naughty child. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, how could Chen Dinghua beg Wild Dog for mercy? He would rather die than do that. Therefore, bang! Within the formation, under Chu Yang's control, dozens of large sticks were formed and used one after another. Every time they smashed down, the air would explode, as if it was going to explode the void. Chen Dinghua was beaten until his head exploded. It was only because he was careless that a stick suddenly came out and smashed him on the back of his neck, sending him flying. The pain went deep into his bone marrow, and there was a slight sound of bone cracking coming from his neck. If Chen Dinghua hadn't reacted quickly and made a certain resistance, his neck would have been smashed by the stick. Even so, he still blacked out and almost fainted. He fell to the ground, and the earth exploded. The soil was overturned, and a big pit was formed. Dog in the water, why don't you wag your tail quickly? Chu Yang was in a good mood. He played slowly and said as if he was teaching a dog that doesn't wag its tail is not a good dog. Chen Dinghua almost broke his canine teeth. Falling into Wild Dog's formation, he had no power to fight back and was constantly humiliated. He was shocked and angry, but at the same time, there was a kind of fear. Chapter 1350. Bang, bang, bang. Chen Dinghua's speed was extremely fast with every charge, but a barrier would always appear midway, causing him to be like a mad bull as he rammed into a red iron wall. His nose was bleeding profusely, his face was distorted from the pain, and his body was spasming. It was a miserable sight. This repeated over and over again, causing many people to feel pity for him. The image of a mad bull ramming into an iron wall unconsciously appeared in their minds. The bull's horns were broken, and its 4 hooves were facing the sky. It fell to the ground, but it was still incomparably stupid as it raged at the red iron wall and wanted to destroy it. While they sympathized with Chen Dinghua, they also felt a chill from the bottom of their hearts toward Chu Yang. A mere formation was enough to put an outer courtyard genius into such a difficult situation. Chen Dinghua was definitely not ordinary. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to stand out and provoke the wild dog. Chu Yang had already returned to his seat and turned on his spectator mode. Ji Yinmeng's body was really weak. He was very touched and couldn't help but praise, so soft, so comfortable. He was too infuriating. Many of the animals were so angry that their teeth were chattering. They wanted nothing more than to eat him in one bite. However, the animals were still being provoked. Chu Yang smirked and beckoned at them with his finger. Come on, come and bite me. I like it when you guys are like this. You can't wait to kill me, but you can't kill me. There was no limit to his savagery. Within the domain, Chen Dinghua was still strong and didn't give up. He sped up again and wanted to borrow the momentum to break through the formation's barrier. He let out a series of sonic booms. This time, he was much more alert and was on guard against the formation's barrier that could appear at any time. Unfortunately, he wasn't the only one who knew how things developed. As a result, Chen Dinghua immediately did something stupid as soon as Chu Yang had a thought. In the eyes of the people outside, it was as if he had taken the initiative to send his face over to be smashed by a large stick. Bang! His bruised and swollen face directly came into contact with the large stick. His entire body was immediately distorted as he flipped over and flew out. He let out an extremely miserable scream in midair. Pain, intense pain, it was too painful. Chen Dinghua felt as if he had been trampled on by a divine elephant. His entire face was almost rotten, dripping with blood. Tragic, tragic, tragic. Hate, hate, hate. Chen Dinghua was mad with hatred. His killing intent was boiling, but there was nothing he could do. He thought he was the hidden genius of the Sky Academy and stood out to kill the wild dog. However, he didn't even touch the dog's hair and ended up like this. He really wanted to die immediately, especially when he thought of the arrogant words he had said before. This humble one has a great doubt. This dog is only at the spirit stage. Is it because it can withstand beatings? Or is it because its skin is too thick? My arms are a little sore from hitting his dog. It seems that I have to work harder and end this quickly. I can't let this dog look down on me. Chu Yang sat on Ji Yinmeng's body with one leg crossed over the other as he leisurely said. Apart from provoking the crowd and inciting their hatred, when those words entered the ears of the crowd, they also felt incomparably complicated emotions. For a wild dog to be like this, it really wanted to humiliate people to death. Chen Dinghua gritted his teeth and swore in his heart. As long as he escaped, he would definitely cut the wild dog into pieces and return the humiliation and pain he had just suffered 100 times, no, 1,000 times over. At this moment, black smoke was already emitting from his body due to the circulation of his spiritual energy. Accompanied by the black flames on his body, his anger was also vividly displayed. However, he was actually afraid and terrified at the bottom of his heart. This was because the wild dog was able to torture him so miserably with the help of the formation. If the wild dog were to attack again, he would definitely die. If there was no formation, he was confident that he could defeat the wild dog and slaughter it. Chapter 1351. While his mind was racing, the stick never stopped. Stick after stick came crashing down on his face, hitting him so hard that he couldn't even let out a fart. Puff! He took another hit on the face, and blood spurted out of his mouth. His teeth flew out along with his blood, and irregular bloody holes appeared on his cheeks. His entire face was like mud, so how could he say anything? That's right, I did it on purpose, Chu Yang said with a smile. He was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood. However, the price of anger was very heavy. Crack! The rod came crashing down. He was caught off guard, and his left arm was broken into several pieces. His shrill screams became more frequent. His right kneecap was shattered, and he knelt on the ground. Stop! Tears were already flowing out of his eyes as he cried out. However, Chu Yang's reply to him was another ruthless strike. His right scapula was smashed into pieces, and his remaining 2 arms and 1 leg were all broken. Woof! 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 Chen Dinghua was very perceptive and barked like a dog. He couldn't care about anything else. If he didn't lower his head and admit defeat, he would be beaten to death immediately. With a crack, the sound of bones cracking was heard again. His spine was also cracked, and he was sent flying. His head tilted to one side, and he completely fainted. Wild dog, how dare you? Wild dog, why haven't you stopped yet? Yang Yingyuan, Song Yongji, and the others roared. If this continued, Chen Dinghua would die without a doubt. Bang! Chu Yang's reply was very direct. The rod came crashing down, and Chen Dinghua's head exploded like a watermelon. Blood and brain matter flew everywhere. He sat on Ji Yinmeng's body, stretched forward, and supported his chin with his hand. He looked at Yang Yingyuan and smiled. What do you think? Do I dare or not? This kind of reply was enough to drive people to death. Wild dog, do you think you're already invincible? We only provoked you a few times, and you're already ruthless enough to take our lives. You don't put us in your eyes at all. Are you sure you want to fight to the death? Wild dog, you will be punished by the heavens. In the face of public anger, Chu Yang answered them one by one. How lonely it is to be invincible, how lonely it is to be invincible. After he finished singing, he said to the heavens, "Come on, the heavens' wrath is coming, quickly come and condemn me to death." After waiting for a while, there was still no response from the heavens. With a smile in his eyes, he habitually shrugged and spread out his hands. It seems to be useless. I called for the wrath of the heavens, but it didn't come. Why don't you give it a try? Facing people like Chen Dinghua, how could he show mercy? Since you want to reason with me, I will also reason with you. But may I ask, do you want to enter the formation and reason with me, or do you want to talk about the principles of fists and feet? Chu Yang was so cocky now. He was surrounded by enemies, but he was still rampant. If he didn't defeat his opponent with arrogance, how could he show off his might and establish his prestige? For a moment, there was silence. Chu Yang was too unyielding, and he was not afraid at all. He was so casual, so playful, as if he was laughing at the fact that there were no heroes in the world. At this time, the parrot felt bad again. Chu Hang's prestige was completely gone, and it had no part in it at all. Chu Yang, so this is how you angrily treat the East Continent and the 6 great academies in the Seven Wheels Demon region? You are really making the Eastern Wilderness proud. Kui Shinhu and the other 2 were deeply shocked, and their hearts surged. When had the people of the Eastern Wilderness ever been so rampant in the East Continent? Who wasn't worse than a dog? Ban Sungyang, Jiang Fanchun, and the others witnessed all this with their own eyes. They were incomparably shocked, and their hearts were in turmoil, and their faces were full of shock. Although Yang Yingyuan, Ning Fengmao, and the others were furious, they did not dare to underestimate Chu Yang at all. In an instant, they raised his danger level to the highest level in their hearts. Because of their fear, the killing intent in their hearts was already boiling. However, they restrained themselves very well. They were also scared, and did not know if they could take down the wild dog if they attacked together. Chapter 1352. Ning Fengmao had mixed feelings in his heart, but he suppressed the killing intent and anger boiling in his heart. While hesitating, he said coldly, "Chu Yang, you and Chen Dinghua are both students of the Sky Academy. Logically speaking, you should be fellow apprentices. How could you do this to him? What you've done today is no different from a beast. You're really disappointing." As soon as he finished speaking, he said in his heart, "It's really sad that I have to delay like this so that I can make the most correct decision." Ahem. Hearing this, Chu Yang choked on his saliva and coughed. Then he laughed so hard that tears almost came out of his eyes. He looked at Ning Fengmao and said, "Your reason is a little disgusting. Come, let's talk inside the formation." The faces of the 8 gurus of the outer yard of the Sky Academy were all pale. As for the word reason, they were almost allergic to it. If Ning Fengmao hadn't spoken and they didn't need to cooperate, they would have eaten Chu Yang alive. Yang Yingyuan suddenly said sadly, "It's sad, it's really sad. You have supreme talent, but you act recklessly. It's really disappointing." In an instant, the expressions of the parrot and the others were very wonderful. The old dog was just like a bird, but now he showed a compassionate face and even showed heartache. It was too amazing. Such a great change made everyone present confused. What's going on? However, Yang Yingyuan shook his head and continued to look sorry. Then he sighed softly and said, "Although we're sad and disappointed, we still want to give you a chance to turn over a new leaf. After all, you're still young. We'll allow you to make a mistake." He looked like a kind elder with heartache and regret. Chu Yang couldn't help looking at the parrot and said, "Bitch, isn't shamelessness unique to the 2 of us?" Ji Yinyin also showed a surprised expression. It was the first time that she had seen such a shameless person. She didn't expect that someone could say such shameless words in such a way. Whoever believed it was a fool. The parrot was also thoroughly shocked. Then it sighed and said, "Chu Hang, It seems that the two of us will have to work even harder on the path of shamelessness. This time, this divine bird really knows what it means to say that there is always someone better than you. I've always prided myself on being shameless, but now that I think about it, I'm really ashamed. Kui Shinhu and the others were shocked into a daze. They suddenly realized that the shamelessness of Chu Yang and the parrot was, at most, just fooling around. The shameless people in front of them, on the other hand, were truly shameless. For the first time, the three of them seemed to have realized what shamelessness was. Ning Fengmao caught Yang Yingyuan's shamelessness and sighed, "Chu Yang, you're too impulsive, and your temper is too violent. That's not good. The 8 of us sincerely hope that you can repent and turn over a new leaf. Come with us." Motherfucker, Chu Yang finally understood why shamelessness was so infuriating. As for the scheme of these 8 dogs, he was naturally clear. If he didn't agree to turn over a new leaf, they would definitely gang up on him. If he followed them to turn over a new leaf, he would naturally be foolishly walking into their trap. Which one of them wouldn't die? A wisp of green smoke appeared on Chu Yang's face. He was angry, and even more disgusted. These 2 old dogs were too shameless. They had completely crushed him. And their hypocrisy had left him behind by 8 streets. He had never lost so miserably before. This time, he had lost wholeheartedly in this aspect. Phew. Chapter 1353. You too, I sincerely admire you. Chu Yang's expression of worship made Yang Yingyuan and Ning Fengmao's faces turn green. In terms of shamelessness, the wild dog was not inferior to them, but Chu Yang would never admit it. He was just being sarcastic. Brat, how arrogant. Yang Yingyuan's expression changed, and he immediately rebuked Chu Yang. Ning Fengmao's expression was very cold, and he said in a lecturing tone, "Since you are so stubborn, then I will strangle you in the cradle today." Phew. Chu Yang let out a long breath. Were these 2 old dogs' brains rusty? Why did they have to go through so much trouble? Couldn't they just kill him directly? He sincerely suspected that these 2 old dogs were deliberately disgusting him, so he said in an evil voice, "When your mother gave birth to you too, did she vomit and give birth at the same time? She is really strong. Brat, how dare you insult me?" Yang Yingyuan and Ning Fengmao were furious, but at the same time, they found that the effect was very poor. Yang Yingyuan's mentality was too complicated, and he did not dare to attack Chu Yang, but now they did not need to delay or think, because they had no choice. This was really forcing a duck to a perch. With a boom, the killing intent from the 8 people suddenly spread out, and in an instant, the world seemed to be covered in a bloody color, which was very shocking. So direct. Chu Yang was instantly refreshed, and he said sarcastically, "I am sincerely convinced by you. Isn't it just killing people? Do you need to find so many excuses?" Swish, swish, swish. Immediately, many people were frightened, afraid that Chu Yang would mistake them for an enemy, and they all flew back, because they knew that a great battle was about to break out. As for the remaining people, they were all people who wanted Chu Yang's life. At this moment, they all revealed their killing intent, and stood together with Yang Yingyuan and the other 8 masters, merging into one. At this moment, their killing intent soared to the sky, and almost as if it was real, oppressing over. The scene was like everyone was angry and biting to death a person who deserved to die. Whoosh, whoosh. Kui Shinhu and the other 2 also moved, as if they were afraid of being dragged into the battle. All of them retreated, leaving Chu Yang to face countless people alone. However, if one looked closely, the 3 of them formed a triangle, and Chu Yang was at the center. "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and leave." Chu Yang faced the oppression of Yang Yingyuan and the others by himself. It was as if he was facing 10,000 people alone. But his expression didn't change at all. He talked and laughed as he talked to Ban Shungrong and Jiang Fanchun. At the same time, he secretly sent a voice transmission to the others. "Wait, stay away from my 3 brothers." Ban Sungyang, Jiang Fanchun, and the others were startled, then they thought to themselves, he was really prepared. Whoosh, whoosh. How could they care about anything else? They immediately retreated. In today's battle, people would probably die like ants. Blood would flow like rivers and corpses would pile up like mountains. Waha, it's time to start. At this time, Chu Yang laughed heartily. He faced Yang Yingyuan and the others and said, "Before I start, I'll kindly give you a reminder. Today, if one comes, I'll kill one. If two come, I'll kill a pair. I'll start a massacre here. I'll sweep through everything and show Grandpa Chu's martial prowess. So," he pointed at them and said, "you must think carefully, because whoever attacks later, I don't care who they are, they will all die. I will send you to see the King of Hell, and let hell be crowded for a short time." Waha. His rampant laughter resounded through heaven and earth. Chapter 1354. Wild Dog, you really are savage. Yang Yingyuan was extremely malicious, coldly saying this. "Ha ha." Ning Fengmao sneered loudly. With a bang, there was an explosion behind him. With a loud sound, it was as if a sun had jumped out. His eyes suddenly lit up, and a golden crow that was laughing like a mountain appeared. The golden crow flew out like a sun, and its body was wrapped in flames. The burning air crackled. Suddenly, the world became extremely hot. Heat waves rolled and swept out. The ground where Ning Fengmao was turned into magma in an instant. It surged and gurgled. Ning Fengmao's golden crow Dharma was unique to warriors in the Transcendence realm. Everything they learned was gathered in it, and it was said that the Dharma was like the golden core. Once the Dharma was released, it was earth-shattering. Just like Ning Fengmao, this was the result of him restraining his power. Whoosh! Ning Fengmao immediately submerged into his golden crow technique, and completely disappeared. But, the golden crow's eyes became even colder at this moment. It stared at Chu Yang with incomparable coldness. "Wild dog, if you don't die today, the heavens will not tolerate it." Song Yongji also snorted coldly. The mana around his body surged. The moment his aura erupted, his thick long hair instantly scattered and fluttered in the wind. Amidst the loud rumbling, he also unleashed his Dharma idol. It was a demon crocodile. Demon chi rolled around its body, and a rotten smell came from its mouth. It was as if it had just eaten rotten meat. The black demon crocodile looked at Chu Yang as if it was looking at a piece of rotten meat. Its body was also the size of a small mountain. Dharma. Chu Yang looked at the golden crow and the demon crocodile that were the size of mountains. He could not help but squint slightly. From his point of view, Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji were like people who had entered a mecha. Their strength was no longer comparable to before. He had not reached the Transcendence realm, which was equivalent to not having a mecha. A battle between the two of them would be like a human fighting against a mecha barehanded. If one overestimated one's abilities, one would definitely die. This was also the reason why the outer court students of the Sky Academy believed that Chu Yang would definitely die. After all, the gap between the spirit stage and the law phase stage was too big. If there was only one Transcendence realm expert, perhaps Chu Yang would have a slight chance of defying the heavens. However, among the 8 Grandmasters, 7 were in the Transcendence realm. Among them, Yang Yingyuan was even in the Nirvana realm. In addition, among the many students in the outer court of the Sky Academy, there was no lack of law phase realm experts. For example, Yin Longzi was in the law phase realm. In the outer court of the Sky Court, there were at least hundreds of people in the Dharma characteristic realm. With such a comparison, no matter who saw it, the result was without suspense. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. It was like the difference between the heavens and the earth. Especially just now, Chu Yang was extremely rampant, provoking everyone, and even more so, wanting to fight a group of heroes by himself. Everything he had done was incomparably hateful, and had long since thoroughly infuriated everyone. At this moment, most of the people's reactions were to show a cold smile, and some even gritted their teeth. They looked at Chu Yang as if they were looking at a criminal who was at their disposal. Not far away, the surface of the lake was like a huge mirror, sparkling with dazzling light. It was very quiet. Near it, the killing intent emerged in the mountain forest. The storm had been brewing and would soon sweep away everything. Chapter 1355. Since he had obtained the Nirvana Realm Thunder Hammer from Ji Yinmeng, it was not impossible for him to kill Yang Yingyuan. In the eastern wilderness, A soul wheel realm treasure was comparable to an ordinary soul wheel realm treasure. In the East continent, this rule was still valid. A nirvana realm treasure was comparable to an ordinary nirvana realm martial artist. The key question was whether Chu Yang could activate it or not. Of course, he had no problem. His spiritual energy had been transformed into half-step Dharma power, and his foundation was very strong. Compared to ordinary people, his spiritual energy was as vast and endless as the sea, so it was not a problem for him to activate it. Coupled with the formation and the supreme path of assassin, he was confident that he could kill Yang Yingyuan. Unfortunately, he had to wait for Yang Yingyuan and the others to make the first move and wait for the group fight. He didn't just want to kill one person, nor did he want to kill 10 people. He wanted to kill many people, so many that it would shock the world. Therefore, he did not want to lose his tongue, so how could he make the first move? Therefore, waiting became a little uncomfortable and even a little depressing. Brother Ning, since you have shown your Dharma form, please take off the wild dog's head, so that it won't bite people. Yang Yingyuan was very polite and asked Ning Fengmao to make the first move. Ning Fengmao was originally murderous towards Chu Yang, but when he heard this, his heart shrank and he cursed in his heart, Yang Yingyuan, do you really think that I, Ning Fengmao, am an idiot? I'm going to reveal all the cards of the wild dog, so that you can pick up the peaches from behind. Is there such a good thing? He flapped his wings, causing flames to surge. Brother Goat, this kind of trash definitely cannot be allowed to live much longer. However, this time, we will follow Brother Goat's lead in killing these bandits. How can I steal Brother Goat's prestige? Brother Ning, you don't have to care about this. As long as you are not afraid of dirtying your hands, you can go and let the wild dog know how shallow and ignorant it is. Ning Fengmao was not moved and smiled strangely. Brother Yang, I'm really afraid of dirtying my hands. The two of them were modest and unrestrained, which made Chu Yang sneer. However, if he knew that these two people were afraid of him, he would have a different feeling. Seeing this, the students of the outer court of the Sky Academy became even more presumptuous, provoking and cursing. At the side, Song Yongji and the others also had cold gazes. One of the 8 martial scholars suddenly ordered Yang Yingyuan, Ning Fengmao, and Song Yongji, causing their expressions to change slightly. Then, they all attacked together. Wild dog, do you really think you are very strong, that you can challenge us? In fact, you're a joke. Yang Yingyuan said in a condescending manner, I tolerated you as a student and let you be impudent for a while, but it actually caused you to have an illusion and inflate yourself to such an extent. However, in reality, you're just a frog in a well in the eastern wilderness. Today, this old man will wake you up. This old dog's mentality was the mentality of most people in the East continent. Chu Yang was too lazy to get angry. This was not the first time he had experienced this kind of discrimination. If he continued to be angry, he would die of anger. Well said. I'm very curious. When you see your head being cut off and recall what you just said, how ashamed will you be? It's useless to say more. Let's slaughter this wild dog directly. Song Yongji moved. The huge demon crocodile Dharma Laksana was like a mountain, but it rushed over as fast as lightning. Swish. Chu Yang held the thunder hammer and entered his field. It's just a 6th level formation. What can it do? Yang Yingyuan also moved, but he did not drive his Dharma Laksana. Instead, he rushed straight into the formation, not fearing the ambush of the formation at all. Swish. Swish. In the process, he was extremely cautious. He threw out 7 chess pieces like 2 earth dragons, breaking the formation all the way and entering the formation with him. In an instant, the light of the formation there dimmed and completely lost its effect. Formation breaking flag. Seeing this, Yinlongzi was overjoyed. Yang Yingyuan and the others were so cautious that the wild dog would definitely die. As for the formation breaking flag, it was naturally used to break formations. Only a master of formations could refine it. Chu Yang naturally recognized the formation breaking flag. He was surprised, but the formation breaking flag was dead. How could it be compared to an array master? In addition, the formation he set up was very different from the one in the heavenly spirit world. The formation breaking flag's effect would be greatly reduced. Chapter 1356. Swoosh. Swoosh. Chu Yang did not care at all. He used the 5 elements disorder steps and quickly formed seals with his hands. One by one, the seals flew out and disappeared into the ground. He was adjusting the formation. Because of the formation breaking flags, he had to make changes. Yang Yingyuan was shocked and stopped in his tracks. The formation breaking flags could interfere with the arrangement and combination of the formation's energy and break the order within, making the formation completely ineffective. However, at this moment, the formation breaking flags glowed and seemed to be slowly losing their effect. Yang Yingyuan and Ning Fengmao were bewildered, but they quickly calmed down. Although the situation was a bit strange, when they injected their mana into the formation breaking flag, everything was obliterated. However, at this moment, they could not do anything to Chu Yang. Chu Yang was very slippery and created many phantoms. Each of them used the 5 elements disorder steps to the right and left, to the south and north. It was dazzling. In addition, because of the formation, he appeared and disappeared unpredictably. It was very difficult to lock onto him. Boom, boom, boom. Yang Yingyuan and Song Yongji attacked continuously. Energy beams filled the sky. At the same time, they attacked continuously. The sound of explosions was endless. Outside the formation, everyone was watching everything closely. Their eyes did not blink. In many people's eyes, the wild dog's death was only a matter of time. Therefore, more people entered the formation and participated in the encirclement of Chu Yang. The wild dog is not as amazing as Shura said. Yi Hai's eyes didn't blink as he watched all this. He saw that Chu Yang looked like a stray dog. He immediately concluded that Chu Yang was dead for sure. Ning Fengmao sneered, "Chu Yang, you dare to be so arrogant with this little ability. Escape. Where do you think you can escape to? No matter how cunning, fierce, or crazy a dog is, do you think it will take a lot of effort to kill you?" The wild dog was very arrogant. However, after being humiliated again and again, it did not respond. It was very embarrassed. It even tried to escape many times but was stopped by them. Therefore, Song Yongji and the rest gradually calmed down. Although the wild dog was amazing, there was a limit to it and it couldn't fully mature. Soon, the area Chu Yang could move in was rapidly shrinking, and the situation was becoming more and more critical. Kill. Go in and slaughter that wild dog. Wild dog, there's nothing impressive about you at all. You're just pretending. Wild dog is really daring. If I don't kill him today, I won't be able to vent my anger. Rumble. Like a mighty army charging forward, most of the students of the outer court of the Sky Academy rushed in. Seeing this, Yang Yingyuan was completely relieved. He laughed and said, "Everyone, don't worry. We have to take a good look at how this mad dog will escape." He had actually planned to tease Chu Yang, but what was laughable was how much he had feared Chu Yang before. "Brother Yang, you're right. It's boring to kill him directly. It's more interesting to play like a cat playing with a mouse." Ning Fengmao echoed, "Let's catch him and then release him. Since there are so many people, we have to play with each of them. Otherwise, how can the wild dog be satisfied? He's just a little talented, but he dares to be so arrogant. If I don't make him beg for death today, I will not be able to dispel the hatred in my heart." The hatred in Song Yongji's heart was completely vented at this moment without any trace of hiding. In the formation, countless people were eyeing covetously. They all wanted to be the first to catch Chu Yang and be the first to humiliate him. This seemed to be a kind of supreme glory. In addition, now every one of them was thinking about how to torture Chu Yang. He had humiliated Ji Yinmeng before, so many people wanted to tear him into pieces. Chapter 1357. With a loud bang, Ning Fengmao immediately withdrew his Dharma idol. Because his Dharma idol was too big, it would knock the others away if he was not careful. "Everyone, let me dirty my hands first." His eyes were filled with ferocity. Without any more scruples, he shot towards Chu Yang like a bolt of lightning, intending to capture him. Bang! However, Song Yongji arrived first and even exchanged a palm strike with Ning Fengmao. He said with a smile, "Brother Ning, you didn't want to dirty your hands just now. Let me do the dirty work. Haha. Ning Fengmao laughed. Brother Song, let's have a competition. Let's just treat it as hunting. Hehe, Brother Ning's suggestion is not bad. Song Yongji laughed mockingly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Chu Yang like a giant crocodile hunting its prey. Bang! 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 The two of them repeatedly blocked each other and tried to capture Chu Yang from time to time. They were really playing like children. Wild dog, how do you feel now? Is it good? Wild dog, do you feel embarrassed now? The two of them were teasing Chu Yang, but Chu Yang did not say anything. He just remembered it in his heart. Haha. Everyone burst into laughter. The atmosphere became more lively and relaxed. Wild dog will definitely die. Yi Hai no longer doubted Luo Xiu's judgment at this moment. Ban Sungyang, Jiang Fanchun, and the others had different feelings, but they were all very worried and anxious. If Chu Yang lost, not only would they be humiliated because they compromised with Wild Dog, but their lives would also be in danger. I'm convinced. This divine bird is completely convinced. The parrot shook its head and complained in its heart, why can't this divine bird meet such a stupid opponent? Kui Shinhu and the other two laughed and sneered. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Chu Yang kept dodging. It was very dangerous, but he was sneering in his heart. This bunch of idiots had given him enough time to adjust the formation and change all the formation seals into the formation seals of the god's realm. Apart from breaking the suppression of the formation breaking flags, he also had time to choose a battle opportunity. After adjusting the spirit array, he didn't immediately make a move. Instead, he let Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji play with each other. When they were all careless and each of them tried to block the other, he finally made a move. Bang! Chu Yang stomped on the ground, and a buzzing sound rang out. Beams of light shot out from the ground and gathered in the air, forming a cage. The sky was dazzling. Boom! It was as if there was a sun hidden under the ground, bursting with endless dazzling light. Wang! Wang! Endless light rippled in the void, as if a formation had completely separated that part of the void from the world. With Chu Yang as the center, it was even more obvious. A light shield was instantly released from his body, enveloping both Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji, who were flying towards him. A 7th grade formation? The sudden change shocked both Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji. They felt that the void around them was fixed. Although they struggled with all their might, it was as if they were trapped in a swamp. It was very difficult for them to move quickly. They were frightened. Only a 7th grade formation could have such power. A 6th grade formation wouldn't have such a big impact on them. At this moment, all the people who were chasing after them suddenly stopped. They looked at the scene in astonishment. The wild dog actually had such a trick. Ah! Chapter 1358. On the other side, a string of bullets shot out and directly pierced through Song Yongji's throat. Then, with a horizontal slash, his head flew out. It was pierced through by the bullets and retrieved, swinging in the air like a pendulum. Kai! Ning Fengmao did the same. In a split second, Chu Yang suddenly launched an attack. It was as if an emperor was enraged. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. He took the heads of Song Yongji and Ning Fengmao in an instant, and hung them in the air. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This was how Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji felt at the moment. Their faces were a mixture of disbelief and horror. They looked at each other as if asking each other, was this real? Even though they could see each other's heads swaying in the air, they were still alive. Time froze at this moment. Everything came to a standstill. The wind that came from the distance magnified the deathly stillness. It was as if the world had arranged this extreme silence so that everyone present could clearly feel the passage of time. Guan Yu was careless and lost Jingju. A 30-year-old woman beat up her child. A voice suddenly broke the silence, but it was so abrupt. Chu Yang's voice rang out as he lifted their heads. He looked at them and said with a smile, "Just now, the two of you asked me how I felt. Now, shouldn't I return the favor and ask the two of you how you feel? Cough, cough, cough. I'll be more formal." He cleared his throat and said, "Sorry to disturb you too. I want to interview you too. Capsizing in the gutter, something unexpected happened to you. How do you feel now? Do you feel good? Do you feel ashamed? Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji were shocked. If they had not been too careless, this would not have happened. They dared to play cat and mouse with such a dangerous person like the wild dog. Who gave them the intelligence to do so? Recalling what happened just now, the two suddenly felt like they had been slapped in the face. They were too ashamed to show their faces. Even if they were stupid, they were not as stupid as them. When they thought about how people would judge them, they immediately felt like dying. Unfortunately, they were in the transcendence realm. Even if their heads were cut off, they would not die so easily. Everyone, I would like to interview all of you as well. Chu Yang looked at Yang Yingyuan and the others. Excuse me, what were you laughing about just now? Can you share it with me? When the people who broke into the array saw Chu Yang's devilish smile, their bodies turned cold and their minds trembled. Yang Yingyuan felt his scalp go numb. As for sharing, share my ass. It's so embarrassing. Do you want to publicize it? Also, Chu Yang's face once again became incomparably radiant. He lifted Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji's heads up high and asked with a smile, looking at these two heads, how do you feel right now? Can you talk about your current thoughts? Or can you describe the feeling in your heart right now? Such sharp mockery and ridicule was extremely humiliating, but Yang Yingyuan and the others couldn't say a word. Because they were stupid, they were really too stupid. Every one of them recalled their actions just now and instantly felt their faces burning. They were sure that they would definitely be laughed at. Yi Hai, who was in the distance, was dumbstruck when he saw all of this. What certain death? What Luo Xiu judged wrongly? It was all bullshit. Slap. Yi Hai slapped himself and warned himself, you won't die for being stupid, but you will die for talking nonsense. At this moment, the word wild dog had become a forbidden word in his dictionary. If he said the word wild dog again, he decided to hide one of his own hands. Otherwise, one day his head might be cut off, hung up and swung in the air, just like Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji. I'm also stupid. What kind of person is Luo Xiu? Even if I had doubts, how could I completely deny it? Chapter 1359. Ha ha ha. The parrot was rolling on the ground with laughter. This is so funny. Are you trying to kill me? Ha ha. Kui Xinhu and the other two also laughed. They couldn't imagine how stupid Yang Yingyuan and the others were. Amitabha. Fa Zhao shook his head. He knew that Chu Yang had given these people a chance, but some of them didn't know how to cherish it, let alone respect it. Therefore, when Chu Yang mercilessly killed him, he really had nothing to say. Chu Yang mocked them for a while, but he didn't feel any sense of accomplishment. He said directly, everyone, I'm not targeting anyone, but you're all trash. Now, I'll give you one last chance. Kneel down and repent, and I'll spare your lives. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Yang Yingyuan was desperately driving the formation-breaking flag. Chu Yang didn't say anything, so he put away the thunder hammer and provoked everyone again. What? Are you all mute? He secretly used the divine demon twins again. At the same time, he visualized the void martial spirit. Then, a doppelganger silently sneaked over. Old dog, use all your strength. Don't let me wait for too long. Yang Yingyuan's little trick was discovered, and he was slightly shocked. He looked at Chu Yang and was about to say something. Suddenly, he felt something was wrong, but before he could react, rumble, thunder roared, and the dazzling lightning was reflected in front of him. He saw the lightning clearly, and then he saw his own headless body and Chu Yang's smile. Old dog, the East Continent is not that great, is it? Kai. Chu Yang didn't even bother to mock Yang Yingyuan. He shot out a string and lifted Yang Yingyuan's head. Ah, Yang Yingyuan lost his body, and he screamed. His head shook violently, and he was extremely scared, angry, and full of hatred. Please stop barking. Chu Yang raised his hand and slapped Yang Yingyuan several times. Yang Yingyuan immediately quieted down. Boom. The crowd near Yang Yingyuan retreated with a loud rumble, and fled one after another. No one dared to attack Chu Yang. Such a mysterious attack had shocked everyone. Yang Yingyuan, who was originally high up in the air and looked down on the wild dog, couldn't withstand it with his Nirvana realm cultivation, let alone them. Yang Yingyuan's face was deathly pale, his mouth trembling as he said in a trembling voice, "Little friend Chu Yang, let's talk nicely." "Yeah, little friend Chu Yang, let's talk it over." Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji also echoed behind him. Bang bang bang. Chu Yang's hand shook, and the three of their heads collided. In an instant, their faces were covered in blood, and they were seeing stars from the collision. Everyone was shocked by this scene. How long has it been? Chu Yang has already cut off the heads of these three people. Just a moment ago, these three people were still mocking and humiliating Chu Yang. How ironic was this? In the blink of an eye, they had gone from heaven to hell. In fact, at this moment, everyone in the formation felt their blood run cold. Perhaps, they would be the next one. They didn't expect it to be like this. As hunters, they were chasing their prey happily, and they didn't put the prey in their eyes at all. However, at a certain moment, they suddenly realized that it wasn't prey, but a demon. In the blink of an eye, they turned into hunters. One could imagine how they felt. It was too sudden. Chapter 1360. Yang Yingyuan and the others began to howl. Chu Yang seemed to have only shaken them slightly, but their skulls were like three stars colliding with each other. Their skulls began to crack, and they screamed in fright. The fear of death engulfed their hearts. They felt that it would be better to just die. Living like this was too unbearable. The physical pain was unbearable, and the mental torment was enough to make them collapse. The wild dogs that they looked down on, the wild dogs that threatened to slaughter, actually cut off their heads, and even humiliated them like this. "3 dog heads, I told you to shut up, did you hear me?" The moment Chu Yang spoke, the three of them immediately shut up. They were as obedient as 3 puppies. Hee hee. Chu Yang laughed again and said to everyone in the domain, "Everyone, do you want me to repeat myself, or do you also want to test the sharpness of the butcher's knife in my hand?" The situation changed so quickly that everyone in the domain was in a daze. Now, it was actually them who had to kneel down and repent. "You really do have some tricks up your sleeve." A voice suddenly came from outside the formation. It was a bald old man with a tall stature. He was one of the 8 evolved Jing masters. "Brother Jin, save me." Brother Yuanhao, Yang Yingyuan was the first to shout. Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji also had the same thought. This bald old man, according to Yang Yingyuan's shout, should be called Jin Yuanhao. He seemed to be deaf and did not respond. You can actually make the formation breaking flag lose its effect. That's really amazing. What's even more amazing is that you can actually turn a 6th grade formation into a 7th grade formation. I can't help but marvel at your attainments in formations. Clap, clap, clap. He clapped his hands, and his applause was extremely monotonous. This should be your biggest trump card, right? Bang. As they spoke, they seemed to be in sync. Under Jin Yuanhao's lead, the remaining 6 evolved Jing masters moved their bodies at the same time. A black flame sprang out from their bodies and burned fiercely. In an instant, the 6 of them were like the heart of the black flame. Nirvana flame. 6 Nirvana realm experts. All 6 of them were Nirvana realm experts. You're really good at hiding. I actually didn't notice it at first. Chu Yang's pupils slightly shrank. This was not a small move. In order to deal with him, including Yang Yingyuan, they had actually mobilized 7 Nirvana realm masters. Boom. Everyone in the array formation was excited. Some of them even cried tears of joy. We are saved. The 6 masters are all in the Nirvana realm. Breaking a level 7 array formation is as easy as lifting a finger. A 7th level array can only be used to deal with someone in the Transcendence realm. Wild Dog is doomed this time. The Wild Dog doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Does he think that the East Continent is a dry well in the eastern wilderness? What a joke. Now, a vile character is intoxicated with success. He simply doesn't know how to write the word death. Inside the formation, there was an uproar as everyone celebrated. Peng. Jin Yuanhao flicked his finger and a cluster of black flames landed on the light shield formed by the formation. Immediately, the light shield burned like a piece of paper. In just a moment, the black flames not only burned through the light shield, but also the array formation on the ground. The fire of Nirvana was just that domineering. Just a little bit of it could burn a Transcendence Realm warrior into ashes, leaving not a single trace behind. This kind of flame could only be controlled by a Nirvana Realm warrior. It varied in strength and was determined by the warrior's foundation. The stronger the martial arts foundation, the more terrifying the Nirvana flame would be when breaking through to the Nirvana realm. Some Nirvana flames could even burn a life and death realm warrior alive. Chu Yang knew this, but this was the first time he had seen the power of Nirvana flame. The formation that he had painstakingly set up was destroyed in an instant. Chapter 1361. Are you desperate? Chu Yang didn't answer because he couldn't be bothered to. After hearing so many sarcastic words, he was already numb. He thought to himself, it's time to end this. Wild dog, let's see how arrogant you can be. Chu Yang was annoyed by the taunting and his hand shook again. Bang, bang, bang. Yang Yingyuan's 3 heads collided violently again. The sound of bones cracking could be heard clearly and the 3 of them screamed in pain. Jin Yuanhao's smile froze on his face. He said in a low voice, Wild dog, let them go and I'll give you a quick death. Is your mission to kill me? Chu Yang sneered. Do you dare to kill me? Jin Yuanhao was like a venomous snake that had been hit where it hurt. His face twitched, and his expression suddenly became gloomy. He forced himself to say, there is nothing I don't dare to do. Killing you is no different from killing a dog. At the same time, he sent a message to the dozen people closest to Chu Yang. The array is broken. Wild dog has nothing to rely on. There's nothing to be afraid of. Find a chance to sneak attack and save Grandmaster Yang and the others. I'll reward you handsomely. Instantly, the dozen people were surprised. However, while the others were waiting for a chance, a figure suddenly appeared. He was like a sneaking poisonous snake, fast as lightning. But how could he succeed? What kind of person was Chu Yang? How vigilant was he when he was in danger? Bang, bang, bang. Chu Yang sneered and shook his hand. Yang Yingyuan's 3 heads collided again and the figure stopped abruptly. At this time, everyone saw that it was a horse-faced young man in the Dharma phase realm. Interesting. Chu Yang lifted the 3 heads, and his spirit energy transformed into 3 big hands. Then, he slapped Yang Yingyuan and the other 2 dozens of times in one breath. The sound was very crisp and clear, and the 3 heads almost rotted. The 3 people's heads were buzzing. They had lost their bodies below the neck and were already very weak. Not only could they not bear the slap, but they also felt humiliated. You what? Chu Yang lifted the 3 heads and sneered, have you forgotten what I told you before? When I cut off your heads, would you be very embarrassed? You still dare to come? Chu Yang sensed that someone was about to launch a sneak attack. He abruptly raised his head and coldly stared at the person who launched the sneak attack. After that, he put down a head and lifted his foot to stomp on it. With a bang, Ning Fengmao's head exploded like a watermelon. Are you satisfied now? You. Jin Yuanhao's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. He had instigated people to launch a sneak attack on Chu Yang, but the result was too hard to accept. Wild Dog was so decisive that he directly killed one of them. You're next. Chu Yang picked up Yang Yingyuan's head and looked at Jin Yuanhao and the others. I don't know. What do you 6 old dogs say? Brother Jin, don't. Yang Yingyuan was very weak, but he wailed with all his might. Brother Jin, Song Yongji, beg you. Song Yongji was about to collapse. He really didn't want to die. Wild Dog, you definitely won't have a good ending. The horse-faced young man who wanted to launch a sneak attack on Chu Yang just now opened his mouth. Chu Yang smiled. Are you threatening me? Bang. He didn't hesitate and directly kicked Yang Yingyuan's head away. It exploded in mid-air, and brain matter and blood splattered on Jin Yuanhao and the others. Wild Dog. How dare you, You actually dare to do this? The horse-faced young man flew into a rage. If Jin Yuanhao and the other masters blamed him and said that he was the cause of Yang Yingyuan's tragic death, he would have nowhere to go. How dare you disrespect me? Chu Yang coldly snorted, then I'll satisfy you. With a loud bang, Song Yongji's head was also sent flying by the kick. It also exploded in the air like a firework. Chapter 1362. It's none of my business. He panicked and said to Jin Yuanhao and the others, but he only saw the gloomy faces of the 6 people. Chu Yang smiled and added, to be exact, I hate your horse-faced face. That's why I had no choice but to kill you. Your horse-faced face is really unbearable. The horse-faced young man felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. Wild Dog was going to kill him. Then he roared, Wild Dog, I'll kill you. Bang! The nirvana fire on the bodies of the 6 gurus led by Jin Yuanhao suddenly burst out. It was not hard to imagine how they were feeling now. Especially Jin Yuanhao's ferocious face had been completely distorted. This result was caused by his instigation. If it was spread out, he would be criticized for being black-hearted and wanting to kill Yang Yingyuan with the help of Wild Dog. In this way, the relatives and friends of Yang Yingyuan and the other 2 would never let him go, and his reputation would be tarnished. Wild Dog, I'll burn you to ashes. Jin Yuanhao gritted his teeth and roared, kill him. The dozens of people who were going to attack Chu Yang moved at the same time. In an instant, they rushed over to kill Chu Yang together. Damn it! Seeing that things had turned out like this, young Zen master Fa Zhao sighed in his heart and finally restrained his impulse to attack. His ability could not stop the 2 sides from fighting. In this way, there was only one result. He shook his head. In addition to those who had broken into the formation, many people outside also rushed over. In the end, there were only a dozen students of the outer yard of the Sky Academy left. In the distance, Ban Sungyang and the others all felt that Chu Yang was too rash. He should not have killed Yang Yingyuan and the other 2. It would have been better to keep them as hostages. In their eyes, Chu Yang was completely done for this time. Boom. For a moment, it was unknown how many people there were. It was a vast expanse. Wild Dog, you bastard, I'll kill you. Jin Yuanhao had completely lost his composure. He attacked later but attacked first. The black nirvana fire burned over in an instant. The other 5 grandmasters also made their moves at the same time. 6 grandmasters, there's no need to dirty your hands by killing a wild dog, the horse-faced young man shouted. Wait, let me do it. I will kill him with my own hands to wash away my shame. He was trying his best to distance himself from this matter. The deaths of Yang Yingyuan and the other 2 had nothing to do with him. All right. Although Jin Yuanhao couldn't wait to kill Chu Yang, but thinking of his original mission, he could only swallow his anger. He couldn't kill Chu Yang, he had to leave it for those people to slaughter. He stopped, and so did the other 5 grandmasters. However, they were not far away from Chu Yang, and could attack at any time. Hehe, let me do it. A nearly 2-meter-tall, 6-fingered man, like an iron tower, rushed in front of the horse-faced young man. Let me do it. An extremely charming woman walked over with light steps. Her large eyes were watery and extremely alluring. Stop arguing, I'll kill the wild dog. I like eating dog meat the most. Another person retorted, are you the only one who likes to eat dog meat? If that's the reason, you should move aside. This person displayed his own law idol. It was a giant law idol, but it was very shocking. He was actually able to shrink his law idol to a height of 7 or 8 feet. He reached out a large hand and slapped towards Chu Yang. Chu Yang was no longer a threat to them without the formation. However, if they killed Chu Yang, they would be able to boast about it for a year. After all, Chu Yang was the one who killed Yang Yingyuan and the other 2. Chu Yang looked at all of this coldly. The final situation was indeed as expected. He had endured for so long in vain. He dodged while laughing. You all are in such a hurry to die. It's really amazing. Such words were completely ignored by these people. Many people even mocked him back. Chapter 1363. Chu Yang's heart was overflowing with murderous intention. He refused to slaughter so many people in his heart. Therefore, he had revealed his trump card little by little. But what he got in return was only more contempt after he revealed his trump card. In just a moment, many people surrounded him, so he had to pay a heavy price. He was already covered in cuts and bruises. Wild dog, what other trump cards do you have? Without the formation, I can kill you with one slap. The horse-faced young man roared and rushed forward. No matter what, he had to kill Chu Yang before the others. Haha, I'm satisfied, I'm going to use my ultimate move. Chu Yang was so angry that he laughed and greeted Kui Shinhu and the others. Haha. The three of them laughed. Eastern Wilderness, we've been waiting for a long time. Rumble. Suddenly, 3 bolts of lightning struck down like 3 giant axes. In an instant, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. At this time, everyone realized that above the heads of the 3 wild dogs, thunderclouds had condensed in an instant. Rolling thunderbolts descended. Lightning tribulation. The horse-faced young man, the 6-fingered young man, the charming woman and the others turned pale with fright. Because they were all within the range of the lightning tribulation, they were completely engulfed. When Jin Yuanhao and the others heard the name Lightning God, they trembled. They were also within the range of the lightning tribulation. If they were engulfed, their lightning tribulation would be much more terrifying. Everyone was shocked. The wild dog was too ruthless, he actually planned to slaughter all of them. However, what they didn't understand was that before the lightning tribulation happened, there would usually be a sign. How could it be triggered in an instant? The wild dog, was he trying to defy the heavens? How could Chu Yang explain all this to them? If he didn't have absolute confidence, he wouldn't have dared to come. This was Sima Jian's masterpiece. He was inspired by what he did in the 7 demonic domain. He created it according to the situation of Kui Shinhu and the others. The original intention was for them to protect themselves. He could also trigger the lightning tribulation at any time, but it was only the heavenly spirit world's lightning tribulation. If he leveled up alone, the balance between the heavenly spirit world and the myriad gods world would be broken. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he wouldn't trigger it. Rumble. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. So many people were caught up in the lightning tribulation. The lightning tribulation was like rain. It was extremely terrifying when it gathered together. It was incomparably spectacular. In an instant, the sound of thunder made everyone lose their hearing. Dazzling lightning occupied that part of the world. Thunder was everywhere. Thunder drowned everything. The scene was indescribable. It was as if a world of thunder had suddenly appeared out of thin air. Everyone was scared out of their wits. Only Chu Yang was laughing coldly. You forced me to do this. His eyes blossomed with 2 beams of incomparably cold light as he directly attacked the horse-faced youth. Wild dog, even if I die, I'll slaughter you first. The horse-faced young man was going crazy. Being schemed against like this, how sullen would it be if he died? He wouldn't be able to die in peace. Boom. As the 2 of them collided, Chu Yang's thunder hammer smashed down. In almost an instant, the horse-faced youth screamed miserably as he was struck to the point of exploding, a Nirvana stage artifact. He actually forgot. Horseface had truly died with his eyes wide open. He had died more stupidly than he had imagined. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Everyone was frantically fleeing. The lightning tribulation was too troublesome. If they weren't careful, they would die. No one dared to stay. You still want to leave? Today, all of you will die here. Chu Yang attacked the charming girl. Because of the horse-faced youth's miserable death, she also remembered that Chu Yang had a thunder hammer in his hand. She didn't dare to fight head-on. However, she realized that her speed wasn't as fast as Chu Yang's. Her head was directly smashed by the hammer, and she died an unnatural death. Wild dog. The 6-fingered youth was extremely shocked. Chu Yang had already targeted him. He exerted all his strength to run, but once the lightning tribulation struck, he was immediately seriously injured. Chu Yang smiled as he walked over. He effortlessly added a hammer strike and settled the matter. In this way, Chu Yang continued to harvest. Those who were fighting to kill Chu Yang just now were all killed in an instant. Seeing Chu Yang walking freely in the lightning tribulation, not fearing the lightning tribulation at all, everyone was stupefied. They only ran for a while before they had no choice but to stop and resist the lightning tribulation with all their strength. In their opinion, Wild Dog was also the same. Therefore, the final result should be that after the lightning tribulation, there would be a reckoning. However, they were horrified to find that this wasn't the case. What was going on? Why was Wild Dog able to move freely in the lightning tribulation and resist it so easily? Everyone was stupefied. Even Jin Yuanhao and the others were completely stupefied. Such a thing actually happened. Wild Dog. Jin Yuanhao's frightened voice was filled with malevolence. Chu Yang had already found him. At the beginning, he was still cursing. However, under Chu Yang's attack and having to deal with the lightning tribulation, he instantly lost his voice and was directly smashed to death. The other 5 masters were the same. Under the cover of the lightning tribulation, Chu Yang used his space-time divine ability and teleported continuously. They wanted to perish together with Chu Yang, but it was impossible. The nirvana flame that they were so proud of was also completely useless. What was especially sullen was that Wild Dog clearly told them that he didn't even use his full strength and had already killed them. Boom. 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 Under the shroud of the lightning tribulation, many people in the sky made the choice to endure the lightning tribulation and flee. Many people were struck to death by the lightning tribulation on the spot. Ah, Wild Dog, you will die a horrible death. Wild Dog, you have committed such a heinous crime. You will definitely be punished by the heavens. Chu Yang, please spare my life. There were all kinds of curses and curses. There were also countless people who knelt and begged for mercy. However, all of them were ignored by Chu Yang. It's too late for you to say this now. I'll borrow your bones. I'll trample on your bones and show my might. When Chu Yang let Kui Shinhu and the other 2 attract the lightning tribulation, everything was already destined. There was no turning back. Therefore, Chu Yang was abnormally cold. He was like a great demon king who ignored everything. Chapter 1364. There was no suspense. It was extremely dangerous to go through the thunder tribulation with careful preparation. Those who were suddenly involved in the thunder tribulation were unprepared. Most of them died in the thunder tribulation. There was no mercy. Those who could go through the thunder tribulation were all killed by Chu Yang. In the mountain forest, the setting sun reflected everything in a mess. Thunder raged wildly, the earth was scorched black, and the charred corpses were scattered one after another. It was like a battlefield after the battle between 2 armies. The grass and trees were all broken, and the mountain rocks were shattered. There were some flames burning and jumping on some scattered grass and trees. The lake not far away seemed to be extremely shocked by the scene in front of them. The waves were surging, as if they wanted to rush to the shore to have a look, splashing crystal waves. Whoosh! The wind was whistling, and the surroundings were dead silent, making the incantation of the little Zen master Fazhao particularly clear. Those who were alive all looked at this scene in a daze, unable to say a word. Ku Yihai couldn't help swallowing his saliva, and Luo Xiu's words appeared in his mind. This time, I'm afraid it's not as simple as stripping and hanging them up to dry. I'm afraid that a lot of people will die. People will die like ants. Everything happened in front of his eyes. He didn't know what kind of mentality he was in now. He wanted to go back and tell Luo Xiu all this to vent his horror and fear, but he didn't dare to move at all. The godlike figure in the field, even if he didn't do anything, made him feel as if hundreds of thousands of mountains were pressing on his body. He didn't dare to move at all. It turns out that Chu Yang is such a person. Yihai didn't doubt Luo Xiu's point of view. He completely agreed with him. Such a foresight was really amazing. If he could realize the horror of Chu Yang just by being stripped naked and hung up to dry like Luo Xiu, he would be willing to have such a realization. Anyway, it was better than dying here. At this moment, he completely understood Luo Xiu's meaning. People's patience was limited, and so was Chu Yang. What the people in the East Continent did had exceeded the limit of Chu Yang's patience. This was the consequence of completely enraging Chu Yang. Even the Sky Academy might not be able to bear such a consequence. Fortunately, there were 3 test sites for this test. If there was only one, there would be a gap in the Sky Academy. Even if there was no gap, it was almost the same now. In Yi Hai's opinion, the most outstanding students of the outer yard of the Sky Academy were all gathered here, and they all died here. Hiss. Thinking of this, Yi Hai couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. What kind of consequences would this cause? He couldn't imagine it. Those who didn't attack Chu Yang, those who were still standing, and those who were still breathing, were more or less as shocked and fearful as Yi Hai, but perhaps even more fearful. Before Chu Yang spoke, none of them moved. They were all frozen in place, not daring to move at all. Every movement was done cautiously, for fear of triggering the figure that was like a god of death. Amitabha. The little Zen master Fa Jiao had finished reciting the rebirth mantra. He put his palms together and frowned, saying, "Almsgiver Chu, do you have to do this?" Chu Yang didn't have any burden in his heart. He asked in reply, "Monk, then tell me, what should I do? A knife is pointed at me. What can I do?" The little Zen master Fa Jiao was instantly speechless. He couldn't say anything. Amitabha. After a while, the little Zen master Fa Jiao spoke again. "I hope that what Almsgiver Chu has done is not in vain." Chapter 1365. The little Zen master Fa Jiao was stunned again. If these people hadn't died, Chu Yang would have died just now. Perhaps he only saw corpses one after another, and didn't see Chu Yang. It was very likely that he had also become a corpse. The winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. It had always been like this. No one cared about mercy in a life-and-death situation. Mercy might sometimes turn into greater evil. After today, the little Zen master Fa Jiao believed that the scene of people ganging up on Chu Yang wouldn't happen again in the Sky Academy. If there were still any, then all of them deserved to die. The little Zen master Fa Jiao didn't know if he had done the right thing today, but one thing was for sure. If he had intervened, he would have become a corpse now. Previously, Chu Yang had debated with him, which was definitely a kind of mercy to him. "Almsgiver Chu, you're on your own." The little Zen master Fa Jiao felt that he might not be able to resist attacking Chu Yang and die. Therefore, he left quickly with mixed feelings, looking very lonely. For a disciple of Buddhism, mercy was the most important thing. Seeing so many people die in front of him, he felt very frustrated. Chu Yang naturally knew what little Zen master Fa Jiao was thinking. Because of little Zen master Fa Jiao, Chu Yang's heart was greatly affected. He couldn't help but ask himself, have I really done something wrong? Have I really become a murderous demon king? However, he slowly calmed down. He couldn't possibly feel guilty just because too many of his enemies had died. That would be a type of cruelty to himself. No matter how big the sin he had committed, he would forgive himself. No matter whether it was right or wrong, his first step was definitely to forgive himself. If he wanted to be struck by lightning, then let him be. It was not the first time he had done such a thing. Of course, Chu Yang also understood that he was completely different from his previous life in this life. In his previous life, he was just an ordinary person and would never take on such a big responsibility. However, he was different in this life. Many people pinned their hopes on him and carried a heavy burden. Such a heavy burden made him a little confused. He felt that his wisdom was not enough. Right and wrong suddenly became very blurred and he couldn't distinguish between right and wrong. "Damned monk, you're purposely making things difficult for me," Chu Yang cursed out loud. After that, he began to console himself. Regardless of whether he was right or wrong, the most important thing was that he acted according to his own heart. As for right or wrong, who cares? At most, I'll be left with a body of flesh and you can do whatever you want to me. What's the point of me thinking about this? Imperceptibly, Chu Yang's mentality had a great change. At the same time, he also realized that his vision was a little too small. I am not a great man after all. This was the voice from the bottom of his heart. In the end, he was still somewhat unsure of himself. But did a great man know he was a great man from the very beginning? Although Chu Yang admired and worshipped great people from the bottom of his heart, if he was asked to be a great person, he would probably only say one thing: get lost. Kui Shinhu and the other two could naturally feel a little bit of Chu Yang's current thoughts. They suddenly couldn't help but clench their fists tightly. The eastern wilderness had made Chu Yang bear too much of the burden. They cursed the little Zen master Fa Zhao in their hearts. Damned monk, to hell with your compassion. You can't bear to see these people die in vain, but how can you bear to see the people of the eastern wilderness being slaughtered like pigs and dogs? The parrot strangely quieted down. If there was anyone who understood Chu Yang, it would be the one who understood him the most. This bastard's heart was not black enough. If it were the parrot, no matter how many people died, it would not feel anything. It would even be proud of itself and show off everywhere. After all, it was not a bird that died. Chapter 1366. This stupid bird is still gloating. Kui Shinhu, Hao Dong, and Oyu Luzheng glared at it. You three idiots, what are you looking at? The parrot was instantly furious and poked them with its wings. I was wrong. It's just a monk. Chu Hang was fooled by him. Isn't this the funniest thing in the world? Wahaha. The parrot thought again and couldn't help but roll on the ground with laughter. It's so funny. If one day Chu Hang is cheated by a monk, and this cheater is counting money for the monk, it'll be even more interesting. Haha. Imagining that scene, it laughed until it was choking. Chu Hang, who cheated people every day, was thick-skinned and black-hearted, but he was fooled by a monk. That scene was simply as beautiful as a painting. Chu Yang heard this and couldn't help but laugh. He had done a lot of big things before, but he had never been like today. His thoughts were fluctuating, he doubted himself, and he doubted life. Why should I care too much about other people's opinions? Why should I get anyone's approval? He couldn't help but laugh, and the haze in his heart was swept away. Who cares? At worst, he would die. How could he let his heart be uneasy, torment himself, and humiliate himself, and create the biggest sin in the world? Ha ha. Chu Yang also laughed loudly. The mountain is high, the road is long, and the pit is deep. Cheap Chu gallops freely. Who dares to ride on a horse? Only I, Demon King Chu. When Yi Hai heard such a poem, he was instantly speechless. He felt that this should be a majestic and heroic poem, but the charm was completely different. As soon as it fell into his ears, he immediately felt that it was full of bad taste and self-mockery. Then, from this, he immediately felt a wanton and unrestrained love. He laughed and scolded without fear of other people's words. It was very domineering. There's heroism in the cheapness. The poem is really like the person. Yi Hai sighed in his heart. When he looked at Chu Yang again, the disdain in his heart for Chu Yang's so-called shamelessness was completely gone. There was only reverence left. It was as if he had seen a Kuan Peng moving freely in the universe. Who could stop it? Perhaps, Luo Xiu had already seen all of this when he was stripped naked and hung up to dry. That's why he said those words to me. At this moment, Yi Hai finally knew the basis of Luo Xiu's judgment, and finally understood Luo Xiu's so-called intuition. He also understood why Luo Xiu didn't explain it to him. It was because it was useless to explain it further. Only by experiencing it for oneself could one understand. Fortunately, I didn't dare to leave because I was afraid. Otherwise, I would have missed this scene. He was secretly rejoicing in his heart. Wahaha. The parrot's strange laughter immediately fell into his ears. Chu Hang, you really made a good poem. I think this poem should be called Chu Hang. Haha, this divine bird is laughing to death. Kui Shinhu, Hao Dong, and Oyu Luzheng also laughed. They found that Chu Yang had completely returned to normal. When they looked at the parrot again, they couldn't help but sigh. This cheap bird usually seems arrogant, narcissistic, and lowly. It provokes hatred and provokes people to beat it. But at the critical moment, it is really useful. Hee, you cheap bastard, learn a little. Your omnipotent master will sing another song for you. Today's song, if it falls into the ears of a girl, it might even be able to pick her up. Chu Yang's heart was great. He was even more fearless and unscrupulous. He sang, "Today, I watch the snow drift by in the cold night. With my heart, I drift far away. Chasing in the wind and rain, I can't distinguish the shadow in the fog. The sky is wide and the sea is wide. You and I will change." The parrot cursed and jumped out. "Chu Hang, what the hell are you singing? Do you dare to let the divine bird understand the language?" It was seriously learning and preparing to pick up girls. Chu Yang laughed in his heart. "It'd be strange if you understood." After that, he used an even louder voice to respond, "Forgive me for being unrestrained and unrestrained all my life. I love freedom, but I also fear that one day I will fall. Chu Hang, you haven't finished playing, have you? I'm still free, singing my song loudly, traveling 1,000 miles. Bastard Chu Hang, you're still keeping secrets. This divine bird despises you." The parrot was anxious. It thought that Chu Hang was hiding something from it, so it cursed loudly, "Bastard Chu Hang, you're still keeping secrets. I despise you." Chapter 1367. Ji Yinmeng woke up amidst Chu Yang's singing and the parrot's cursing. She felt a splitting headache and immediately recalled the scene of that bastard Chu Yang smashing her forehead with his hard head. She gritted her teeth fiercely in her heart. When had she ever been like this? Who could bear to do this to her? Only that damned bastard, that lowly scoundrel, dared to do this to her. Ji Yinmeng used all the words she could think of to curse Chu Yang madly in her heart. Her anger did not diminish at all. Instead, it grew stronger. Because until now, her ears were still ringing incessantly and she was seeing stars. She could imagine how ruthless that shameless bastard was to her. He was definitely trying to kill her. That bastard's tender feelings for the fairer sex were all eaten by a dog and she even pooped out. She rested for a while before slowly regaining her senses. She immediately felt that something was wrong. She was solidly in contact with the ground. She could clearly feel the hardness of the ground, as well as the uneven potholes. The hard stones made several parts of her body extremely painful. After that, Ji Yinmeng became more awake. Although her headache worsened, her ears were still ringing, and even her eyes were blurry, her senses were quickly recovering. Soon, she saw her sister looking at that shameless bastard in awe. She also looked at her from time to time worriedly. Her little face was twisted into a ball. She was at her wit's end, as if she could not think of a way to save her. Then, she felt something sitting heavily on her back. She could clearly feel the warmth coming from it. Suddenly, she understood. Her vision turned black and she almost fainted again. That scoundrel. He actually used her as a stool and sat on her back. Ji Yinmeng was fuming with anger. At that moment, she almost screamed out loud. Maybe it's just my imagination. Who would be willing to do that to her? She comforted herself and restrained her anger. However, her body was honest. She instantly had goosebumps all over her body. It was as if she was reacting to a man who was too close to her. After that, she turned her head to take a look. Sure enough, her senses were not wrong. Everything was as she had imagined. At this moment, Chu Yang, that scoundrel, was sitting on her back and singing passionately. She couldn't understand what he was singing at all, but it was incomparably unrestrained. It was as if a mad dog had been released from its cage and was running around freely. However, this wasn't important and wasn't what Ji Yinmeng was concerned about. What she was concerned about was that the hooligan was actually sitting on her back and using her as a cushion. How could he do such a thing? Could a man do such a thing? Ji Yinmeng would rather wake up and find herself sullied by that bastard Chu Yang than be used as a cushion like this. She was so angry that she almost died. Yinmeng, the beloved daughter of an ancient family in the Central Plains and the heavenly talent of the Sky Academy, was so beautiful that she was called a fairy. She remembered Yinmeng as a great figure, but now she had been reduced to a soft cushion under someone's ass. The most hateful thing was that the bastard was still running around and singing loudly. He was so focused and engrossed in it. #yuan yuan %, #yuan % yuan %. Ji Yinmeng was really angry. She couldn't help but activate the 3-character classic in her heart and cursed wildly. Then, she wanted to drag this bastard down to hell with her. She wanted to burn both jade and common stone together and just die. But as soon as she moved, that damned bastard immediately sensed it. My maid, you're finally awake. Chapter 1368. Peng. Ji Yinmeng was in so much pain that her eyes rolled back and she almost fainted again. After she recovered, her ears and mind buzzed and she felt so uncomfortable that she wanted to die. These were all secondary. What made her feel the most uncomfortable was the humiliation. The humiliation was like thousands of insects gnawing at her self-esteem and pride. She was ashamed to the extreme. She was angry to the extreme. She hated this bastard to the core. Ji Yinmeng once again collapsed. What had she experienced? To think that there would be such a dark moment in her life. To think that she would have such a miserable day. My disobedient maid, I can feel your anger and your disrespect. As your punishment, I will teach you to respect your master. Now, I will teach you a lesson. Chu Yang gave an evil smile and then lifted Ji Yinmeng up. With their skin touching, he could feel how soft Ji Yinmeng's body was. He couldn't help but exclaim, my maid is really soft. Ji Yinmeng's face was not only red, her entire body seemed to be completely red. What made her even angrier and crazier was that Chu Yang, this super bastard, this unprecedented bastard, was even worse than before. He actually found a large rock and placed her on top of it like a blanket. Then, he sat down on it. Her stomach, which did not have a trace of excess fat, directly came into contact with the uneven stone. The bastard abruptly sat down, and her stomach suddenly felt a sharp pain. Ji Yinmeng's lungs were about to explode from anger. She couldn't bear it anymore. She crazily screamed, you bastard, this great-aunt will fight it out with you today. Hee hee. Chu Yang gave an evil smile again and warned, as a maid, if you continue to be rude, I can tell you that the master is very angry and the consequences will be very serious. After saying this, Chu Yang picked up the hammer and lightly hit Ji Yinmeng. She immediately rolled her eyes. The consequences would be very serious and she couldn't accept it. This won't do, she finally realized. Chu Yang, get up for me. Ji Yinmeng did her best to suppress all of her hatred, resentment, and anger. She used her most peaceful voice to say this. You should call me young master or master. How can you be so unruly? Chu Yang turned his head and reprimanded her. Then, he picked up the lightning hammer, causing Ji Yinmeng's eyes to instantly widen. Peng. There was no suspense. Chu Yang hit her again, causing her to feel like her head had exploded. A large bump appeared on the back of her head and it was already bleeding. How can there be such a bastard man in this world? How can a man be so ruthless to a woman? Ji Yinmeng's understanding of men completely collapsed. In the past, which man didn't carefully protect her and ask about her well-being? As long as she used something, which one of them wasn't the best? They were afraid of losing face. However, all of this didn't apply to this bastard called Chu Yang. He would hit her with a sledgehammer at the slightest provocation. Could it be that she was no longer as attractive as she used to be? This kind of feeling was really unbearable. This kind of misery made her really want to commit suicide. However, she was willing to accept this and wanted revenge. He wanted to inflict everything that he had gone through on this bastard. At this time, Ji Yinmeng felt that this bastard moved his butt, causing her to feel even more uncomfortable. Her stomach was grinding against a stone. She couldn't help but feel endless sorrow in her heart. If she was a fairy, then she would definitely be the most miserable fairy in history. Ji Yinmeng finally learned her lesson. She didn't dare to confront Chu Yang directly. After all, she didn't want that bastard to use her sledgehammer again to destroy the back of her head, which was already unbearable. What do you want? Chapter 1369. Hee hee. This time, Chu Yang did not turn his head. He only smiled evilly and said, I've already said it before. Just be my maid. If you perform well, I'll take you in as my maid. In the end, he added, you have to work hard. Work hard for your entire family. Ji Yinmeng held back her anger and opened her mouth again. What do you need? I can give it to you as long as you let me go. I want you to be my maid. Chu Yang was too lazy to pay attention to Ji Yinmeng's proposal. Once this woman was free, she would probably fight him to the death. He had already thought it through. He would definitely take her in as his maid and as his hired thug. How impressive would it be to have a fairy as his hired thug? However, from the looks of it, this path was still quite far away. Ji Yinmeng still needed to be educated before she could change her mindset. Therefore, what he wanted to do was to make her completely collapse. Ji Yinmeng was so angry that the roots of her teeth were itching. This bastard was simply unable to talk to her. However, her waist, which was about to break, reminded her that she needed to be patient. She needed to face this troublesome bastard. Although she wanted to beat this bastard, she wanted to kill him immediately. I can pay the same price. Ji Yinmeng was currently heavily injured. Her cultivation had been sealed and she was weak and powerless. Just being smacked by this bastard's buttocks was already a bit unbearable. It could be seen just how bad her current situation was. Hee. Chu Yang did not agree. He slapped her calf and said, "Maid, what's yours is mine. Everything of yours is mine. Do you understand now? You need to adapt to your current identity and continue to improve your awareness." After saying this, Chu Yang took out a spatial ring and waved it in front of her eyes. For example, "This was originally not yours, but now it belongs to me." Ji Yinmeng felt that this was not the right time. This was probably not the time to negotiate. Seeing that she did not respond, Chu Yang felt unsatisfied and continued to tease her. "I've seen everything inside you." This was nothing, but when Chu Yang took out the long dress from the space, she screamed. If this bastard could take out her long dress, then he must have taken out her underwear and all kinds of her personal belongings. Chu Yang was satisfied. "Now that you've scolded my maidservant, I have plenty of ways to deal with you. Behave yourself." How heart-wrenching. How helpless. Ji Yinmeng was stimulated. She finally realized that Chu Yang was sincerely teasing her. The angrier she was, the happier the bastard was. The more intense her reaction, the more the bastard found it interesting. After that, she became completely obedient. So what if she was a maid? It was better than being teased and provoked by this bastard. Because of this, she calmed down even more. She realized that other than this bastard and her little sister Ji Yinyan, no one else dared to look at her. Suddenly, she realized something and almost couldn't help but scream. At this moment, her clothes were in tatters. It could even be said that her clothes did not cover her body. A lot of her pure white skin was exposed. It was like ivory, emitting a white light. You, what did you do to me?" Ji Yinmeng panicked when she thought that she might be sullied by Chu Yang. "Hehe, it's just as you thought." Chu Yang laughed in his heart. Did this woman only think of this now? "Bastard, you'll die a horrible death." Ji Yinmeng only went crazy for a moment before she immediately felt that Chu Yang's laughter was strange. After that, she carefully sensed that she was being teased by this bastard again. However, she still had a strange feeling in her heart. It could be said that she was frustrated. This bastard actually did not have any intention to do that to her. She felt like a failure. Women were such complicated creatures. Coincidentally, Chu Yang knew this. Chu Yang looked at Ji Yinmeng and smiled. "I didn't want you. Are you disappointed now?" Chapter 1370. Sister, just give in to brother-in-law. You can't beat brother-in-law, the Demon King. Ji Yinyan sent a telepathic message to Ji Yinmeng. Ji Yinmeng was so angry that she almost died. "Sister, don't just be angry. Look around." When Yinmeng heard Yinin's voice transmission again, she almost couldn't help but roar in anger. However, her gaze suddenly caught sight of the charred figure. When she looked over, she saw that it was actually a corpse. Then, she looked around. It was as if she was looking at a battlefield after a great battle. She was shocked. The battlefield she saw was different from an ordinary battlefield. In this battlefield, almost every corpse was charred black like charcoal. "Sister, do you see it? This is brother-in-law's masterpiece. He triggered the lightning tribulation and killed everything." Ji Yinyan continued to send a telepathic message. "I'm slowly getting a feel for brother-in-law. He hates it when people threaten him. So, Sister Urk, you must remember this. Also, brother-in-law especially likes to tease people. You must not go against him. Otherwise, you'll definitely feel like you're floating in the air. Ji Yinmeng was already floating in the air. Also, Sister Urk. What bullshit, Sister Urk. Ji Yinmeng really wanted to beat this damned sister to death. Did she look so stupid? Sister Urk, don't be unconvinced. Ji Yinyin continued, this is the truth. If you want to escape, you can't do this. You have to be shameless. You have to take the initiative to give birth to a child for brother-in-law. What kind of bastard idea was this? Ji Yinmeng was furious. Her voice continued to transmit into her telepathic world. Sister Urk, are you really stupid? You're already like that with brother-in-law. If you don't give birth to a child for him, who else can you give birth to a child for? Ji Yinyin continued to educate her elder sister, instilling evil thoughts into her. You must remember this. If you want to escape, you must really, really marry my devil king brother-in-law. You can't fake it at all. The best would be for you to forcefully eat brother-in-law demon king. In the end, she said, if you can't eat brother-in-law demon king, then you should at least pester him and make him take responsibility for you. Anyway, this is the truth. You and brother-in-law demon king are already in an ambiguous relationship. There were many times when Ji Yinmeng couldn't wait to skin Ji Yinyin alive. Was she speaking human language? However, there was one thing she had to admit, she really had an ambiguous relationship with Chu Yang. In addition, she was already so shameless that she didn't have to worry about anything. She might as well treat a dead horse as a living one and adopt Ji Yinin's strategy. After a moment of silence, she suddenly said, Bastard, when are you going to meet my parents? Chu Yang was stunned when he heard this. He stood up in surprise and asked in disbelief, Wait, what did you just say? It worked. Ji Yinmeng was overjoyed. At least, she couldn't get Chu Yang to stand up just now. However, she was now free from the fate of being a cushion with just one sentence. She also stood up and glared at Chu Yang. She gritted her teeth and said, What do you think? I'm already in an ambiguous relationship with you. My chastity has been completely tarnished by your hands. If you don't want to meet my parents, what do you want? Ji Yinmeng's sudden change made Chu Yang feel as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. He was completely stunned. Are you kidding? The more Ji Yinmeng thought about it, the angrier she became. Kidding? Do you think I'm kidding? You have to take responsibility for me. Thump. Chapter 1371. Bang. Chu Yang was really shocked. His body landed on the ground as if it was a free fall, creating a crater in the ground. Then, he turned his head and looked at Ji Yinmeng in disbelief. What did you just say? Can you say it again? This was the second time Chu Yang had said this sentence because it was too hard to believe. When this woman woke up, she obviously wanted to fight to the death with him. But now, there was such a big change. This 180-degree turn really scared him to the point of pissing his pants. He was completely allergic to the words "you have to be responsible for me." Ji Yinmeng saw Chu Yang's expression as if he had seen a ghost. Her bad sister's bullshit method actually had such a miraculous effect. She also found it hard to believe. One had to know that previously, when she fought with Chu Yang, she couldn't make that bastard fall to the ground and create a crater. But now, she actually did it so easily. Ji Yinmeng felt that it was incomparably strange. This scoundrel, this bastard, this shameless and hooligan. He was actually scared to this extent because of the words "you have to be responsible for me." Was this really that scoundrel, that hooligan? Sister Aq, did you see that? Ji Yinyin said proudly, "This is the true nature of my devil king brother-in-law. He looks licentious on the outside, but his heart is pure as a mess. Now that I hit him where it hurts, he panicked. Haha, I am indeed the little lowly who can do anything. Pure. Heavens, are you joking with me?" Ji Yinmeng couldn't help but widen her eyes. There was actually someone who said that this shameless bastard's heart was incomparably pure. He was so pure that he had tarnished her innocence. Anyway, I don't care. This bullshit method is obviously effective. Ji Yinmeng suppressed the miscellaneous things and took advantage of the situation to attack. Then, she stared at Chu Yang with her beautiful eyes and said word by word, "You have." Wait. Chu Yang looked at Ji Yinmeng as though he was looking at a demon. He raised his hand to stop her and said, "Let me think about it. Where exactly did I go wrong?" Chu Yang really wished that time could stop. If he could, he would rather go back in time and seal Ji Yinmeng's mouth before she asked him to take responsibility. Then, he would find a place to throw her away. But now, he couldn't. Chu Yang's mind began to turn muddy. He had actually encountered such a thing. Moreover, it was his previous life and death opponent who had done this to him. He began to analyze the situation. According to the customs of the heavenly soul world, girls were incomparably reserved. His entanglement with Ji Yinmeng was indeed considered as tarnishing a girl's innocence. He had to take responsibility for it. However, Ji Yinmeng wasn't an ordinary person. She shouldn't be in that category. But she's still a woman. She can't escape from the morals and constraints of the secular world. This is bad. If this girl keeps entangling with me, Grandpa won't have anywhere to cry. Lan Lan knows. Who knows what she's thinking? If she wants to break off the engagement, I won't have anyone to reason with. Chu Yang's head was about to explode. He really wanted to kill Ji Yinmeng. However, he couldn't kill a woman he was responsible for. This damned girl. What kind of brain structure does she have? How did she change so much all of a sudden? There's definitely a problem. Moreover, it's a huge problem. Ayo, I know that you shouldn't guess a woman's thoughts. Now that I've guessed it, aren't I asking for trouble? Chapter 1372. This was like a woman being raped. What was done could not be undone, and the woman had no choice but to marry the man. Such a thing was not rare in the heavenly soul world, nor was it rare. Otherwise, the woman would kill the man, or the woman would commit suicide. That was generally the case. The evil feudal society had decided all of this. This time, I've really played with myself. Chu Yang also thought of Ji Yinyin, the little lowly. The little lowly could do such a thing, but how could Ji Yinmeng accept such a ridiculous method? If she accepted it, it would mean that Ji Yinmeng could only recognize Chu Yang as her husband. Damn. He broke out in cold sweat. Was Ji Yinmeng really going to marry a bastard like him? Also, this girl did not look down on people from the eastern wilderness. How could she marry a wild dog like him? Thus, he immediately had an idea. Are you sure? Chu Yang tidied himself up and asked seriously. In the end, he added, I'm going to take it seriously. Ji Yinmeng gritted her teeth and said in her heart, I'm not sure about this, what else can I do? She also realized that she was going to be Chu Yang's wife for the rest of her life. She was short of breath and sad. She should have been able to find a better man. Do I have a choice? Ji Yinmeng was not angry this time. She did not grit her teeth or glare at him. Her voice was helpless and her expression was depressed. Chu Yang's mind exploded. That can't be, girl, you're not an ordinary person. How can you be like a girl from the secular world? Chu Yang shouted in his heart, but he maintained his calm and solemn expression. He said slowly, you have to know that I came from the eastern wilderness. The eastern continent looks down on people from the eastern wilderness. They call me a wild dog. As he said this, he laughed mockingly. You're from the central continent, right? Even the central prefecture looks down on the east prefecture. How can you respect me? Marrying a human to a dog? Chu Yang really didn't want to say this, but if he didn't, how could he defeat Ji Yinmeng? As soon as Ji Yinyin heard this, Ji Yinmeng immediately transmitted a message to her. Sister Urk, don't be fooled, and don't be fooled by the idea of marrying a dog. Those people called the Demon King Wild Dog have all turned into charcoal. Is there such a powerful dog in this world? Even if brother-in-law Devil King is a dog, Sister Urk, you can just treat him as a dog. When Ji Yinmeng heard the last sentence, she felt relieved and sneered, that's discrimination, but are you really a dog? Remember, Yinmeng. You're a fairy. If you marry a chicken, follow the chicken. If you marry a dog, follow the dog. If you marry a chicken, follow the chicken. If you marry a dog, follow the dog. You can even do such a thing. Do you know what it means to be with me? It doesn't matter what it means now. Do you think I have a choice now? We were fighting for life and death before. Although there was skin-to-skin contact, you don't need to care about it. Skin-to-skin contact is skin-to-skin contact. Moreover, do you think it's just skin-to-skin contact with me? After a confrontation, Chu Yang was completely defeated. He complained in his heart. This was not because of her shameless fighting method at the beginning. Otherwise, how could it be like this? He released his trump card. If you just want to escape from me and use such a serious and beautiful thing to make an issue of it, I despise you. Of course, if you want to leave now, I will definitely let you go. Because just as you said, we do have a bit of fate. Just because of this, I will let you go. Ji Yinmeng just hoped that Chu Yang would let her go. Now it was so easy to achieve it, but she was not happy at all. She was indeed deliberately refuting Chu Yang just now. She objected because she objected. However, everything she said was the truth. She could not deceive herself, and there was nowhere to run. Chapter 1373. Let me go. Can you let me go now? Ji Yinmeng sneered. Then, because she was angry, she said again, you have to take responsibility for me. Sister Urk, support me. He remembered Enin's voice transmission, shouting endlessly, extremely excited. Chu Yang was completely stunned. He made a final effort. If you have decided to do this, then come and kiss me to make me believe you. Don't be shy. If you were my wife, I would kiss you in public and tell you that I love you. Every day, I will do the same. Ji Yinmeng was furious. This bastard didn't believe her. Although she did want to escape in the beginning, what she said later was true. This request is not too much. You know my character. If you follow me, there will be many such things. Hee. Chu Yang was secretly happy. He felt that this was a killing move. How could the women of this world do such things? However, he was praying when suddenly, something soft fell on his forehead. Although it was just a light touch, it was very real. Moreover, Ji Yinmeng was in front of him at this moment. Their breathing could be heard clearly. Chu Yang died on the spot. Do you have any questions now? Ji Yinmeng's voice was very cold. Chu Yang said unconsciously, do you like me? Will you be happy if you get together with someone you don't like? This sudden sentence made Ji Yinmeng almost believe Ji Yinin's words. Chu Yang was a shameless thing. He looked evil on the outside, but his heart was pure. Waraha, sister-in-law. The parrot laughed out loud. Chu Hang is elegant, handsome, full of poetry, wanton, and unrestrained. That's just his outside appearance. That's just his way of disguising himself and rejecting everyone's love. Sister-in-law, when you get close, I'm afraid you won't be able to extricate yourself. Just like the countless women in the eastern wilderness, Chu Hang is infatuated. Sister-in-law. It continued to trick Chu Yang. Chu Hang's property is your property. Hurry up and take over the financial power, then put on some clothes. Otherwise, it would be rude of us brothers not to see indecent things and not to greet eldest sister-in-law. You damned little bitch. Chu Yang was furious. He rushed over, grabbed the parrot, and began to pull out its feathers. Sister-in-law, save me. The parrot screamed miserably. But before it could finish screaming, all of its feathers had been stripped off. Give me back my spatial ring. Chu Yang's feelings were complicated, and he could only return the interspatial ring. As soon as Ji Yinmeng put on her clothes, the parrot fluttered over. A bird of light saluted to Ji Yinmeng. Little brother, little bitch Chu, greets my sister-in-law. Chu Yang saw that Ji Yinmeng did not refuse and even blushed. He was really desperate. How could he explain it to Shangguan Lan? You three idiots, why don't you come over here and greet your sister-in-law? The parrot roasted Kui Shinhu and the other two on the fire. Chu Yang was in a dilemma. If they went over, wouldn't it be a done deal? But seeing Ji Yinmeng's gaze, the three of them could not refuse. After all, Chu Yang did not do it properly. He had tarnished the girl's innocence, so he naturally had to take responsibility. The three of them immediately walked over. Sister-in-law, my name is Kui Shin Hu. Sister-in-law, my name is Hao Hao Dong. Sister-in-law, my name is Ou La Zheng. When Ji Yinmeng heard and received the acknowledgement of the three of them, she unconsciously smiled, and the world instantly lost its color. Hey, I'll let you go. Chu Yang's roar suddenly exploded. Then, he madly chased after a person who was rapidly leaving. Ji Yinmeng was stunned, then she could not help but laugh, and thought, you rascal, you also know how to feel embarrassed. Chu Yang had already gone far away, and the person who was chasing after him was Yi Hai. Yi Hai was scared to death at first, but he quickly realized that he had to escape now, frantically escape. If he dared not to escape and was caught by that bastard, he would definitely suffer a miserable fate. Ha. At the same time, he could not help but laugh in his heart. Chu Yang, such a great devil, also had such a time. If Chu Yang was like this before, it would be hard for him to imagine that today's incident was caused by him. But it did happen, and the consequences were unimaginable. Chapter 1374. Yi Hai ran with all his strength, and Chu Yang followed behind him. Yi Hai soon found that no matter how fast he was, the distance between him and Chu Yang never changed. He's really a freak, he exclaimed in his heart. After a while, the two of them flew for some distance. Yi Hai found that Chu Yang didn't continue to chase him. He just cupped his hands to him from a distance and said, "Brother, thank you very much." Yi Hai only felt funny. Everyone in the Sky Academy pursued Fairy Ji, and many people wanted to be responsible for her. However, Chu Yang was so scared that he almost peed when he heard that he would be responsible for her. He even escaped by such a mean means. He flew to Chu Yang, cupped his hands and said, "Brother Chu, you should be able to guess that I'm going to report to someone." Chu Yang was amused and said with a smile, "That's why I thank you. My gratitude is double. You're really disappointing. I just praised you in my heart for your cleverness." Yi Hai was directly dumbfounded by Chu Yang's words. He smiled bitterly in his heart and said, "The person in front of me really doesn't stick to one pattern." As for Chu Yang's second gratitude, he didn't really need it. Even if he didn't spread the news, who could hide such a big event? "I'm going to pass the news to Luo Xiu." Yi Hai hesitated for a while and finally made up his mind to say, "Luo Xiu, I know this name." Chu Yang was a little surprised by Yi Hai's words and said, "Please continue your speech." Chu Yang was definitely not hated for no reason. At least, Yi Hai was a little unhappy with his current attitude. However, Yi Hai smiled bitterly in his heart. Chu Yang was like this. Immediately, all his unhappiness disappeared and he said, "If Luo Xiu comes to challenge you, I hope you can spare his life. He's a little opportunistic, but he has no choice." After a pause, he added, "Because of his and my background, everything is decided. If we don't want to be cannon fodder all the time, we have to fight hard." There was a story. Chu Yang was slightly stunned and then looked at Yi Hai with a smile. "You're a good person. Haha." When Yi Hai heard Chu Yang's praise, he seemed to be happier than anything else. He laughed heartily and said, "Brother Chu, with your words, I guess I can rest in peace. You're just too humble." Yi Hai was only happy for half a second, but then he laughed even more happily. Chu Yang was not what everyone had imagined. At least now he seemed to be very approachable, much kinder than the heavenly legends of the Sky Academy. However, he was more talented and more nature-defying than the heavenly legends of the Sky Academy. "Brother Chu, you're truly humorous. Life is already very boring, especially for bastards like us. Fighting and killing all day long is even more boring. If I don't do it, wouldn't my life be too dull?" Chu Yang shook his head confidently and narcissistically. "You don't understand." Yi Hai was speechless again. He thought to himself, "Is this the reason why you're so shameless?" He was sure that Chu Yang was a weirdo, and he was also sure that the person in front of him absolutely did not care about what others said. The so-called fear of gossip did not exist for him at all. "Brother Chu, goodbye." Yi Hai cupped his hands again. "I won't see you off. Haha." When Yi Hai heard Chu Yang's voice, he couldn't help laughing and then left. He didn't need to think about Chu Yang's promise. Today, he mentioned it. If possible the next day, he believed that Chu Yang would never kill Luo Xiu. Yi Hai felt that Chu Yang had already shown him enough respect. Many years later, he felt that the conversation with Chu Yang today was enough for him to brag about for the rest of his life. Chapter 1375. Looks like I can't be too rough, Chu Yang muttered to himself as he looked at Yi Hai's departing figure. There were definitely more than one person like Luo Xiu. They could all be won over. Killing them all with a single blow was not the best strategy. Of course, he was also in a good mood. That person seemed to be very respectful to him. He. Chu Yang's lips curled into a smile. He felt a little refreshed. He did not hate this feeling. Ji Yinmeng. But when he thought of this girl, his head hurt a little. He felt that he might really be entangled with her. Amitabh her. I pray that this woman is just on a whim. After a while, she will change her mind. Chu Yang joked with himself for a while and began to think about what to do next. His actions would definitely lead to a fierce counterattack. What he needed to do now was to avoid the brunt of the attack. I can only take advantage of others. I can't do things that will lead to losses. Whoosh. He went to inform Kui Xinhu and the others to leave the Land of Frost. After all, they had already obtained enough points. The marks between their eyebrows had all been raised to the limit. Staying in the Land of Frost would do more harm than good. During this process, Chu Yang took some time to erect a stone tablet to express his thanks. Finally, he used the divine demon twins and pretended to walk out of the Land of Frost. But in reality, he and the parrot stayed in the Land of Frost. Chu Yang wanted to try the Kuan Peng secret technique. The parrot was directly stored in his spatial ring. He used the divine demon walk art and transformed into 10 or 20 handsome young men. He swaggered around the Land of Frost. During this time, he heard a lot of discussions about himself. He found that his heaven-blessed martial prowess was deeply rooted in people's hearts. However, the most valuable thing was that he found out the location of the Kuan Peng's secret, the Cave of Frost. After figuring everything out, Chu Yang did not immediately go to the Cave of Frost. He still had something to do. Everything that he had done had spread throughout the Land of Frost. It could be said that it had caused an uproar in an instant, turning the world upside down. In the battle with Chu Yang, with the help of the Thunder Tribulation, he swept away the enemies of the outer yard of the Sky Academy. He killed all those who attacked him, including Yang Yingyuan, Ning Fengmao, and the other students' teachers. More than 80% of the students who entered the Land of Frost died in that battle. This was a major event, an explosive piece of news that caused the surviving students in the Land of Frost to panic. Many of them even gave up on the test, wanting to leave this troublesome place. In fact, the situation was far more serious than many people thought. The students of the Land of Frost were not the only ones who were shocked. The ones who were the most shocked were the Soul Fusion Sage, the Nirvana Sage, and the Fa Xiong Sage. When the three of them heard the news, the Soul Merging Sage vomited blood, the Dharma Idol Sage fell to the ground, and the Nirvana Sage fainted. The three of them could not bear such a result at all. They would definitely be held accountable. Therefore, after the three of them calmed down, they immediately blocked the entrance and exit of the Land of Frost, preventing the students from leaving. When they heard that Chu Yang and the other wild dog had left after eating their fill, the three of them blacked out and fell to the ground. Why did they block the news? The three of them wanted to kill the wild dog before the Sky Academy held them accountable. However, the wild dog had escaped early. They tried their best but failed. But the bad news was not only that. When the three of them heard that the wild dog had set up a monument for them and thanked them, Xie Jinwan, and the others, they rushed over. When they heard the students' discussion, their ears and minds were buzzing. It was over. They were completely over. The Soul Fusion Sage, the Fa Xiong Sage, and the Nirvana Sage turned out to be the real behind-the-scenes manipulators. These three people are so despicable. I knew it. These three sages are usually high and mighty. Why did they suddenly come to preside over the test of the outer yard? It turns out that they have ulterior motives. If they wanted to kill a genius like Chu Yang, who would stop them? But they used their power to drive several gurus to test Chu Yang. It's too despicable. Chapter 1376. Every discussion went straight to the heart of Sage Melted Soul and the other two. It was obvious that the students all blamed them for the incident. This was indeed the truth, but they never expected that the consequences would be so serious. More than 80% of the students in the Land of Frost were slaughtered. What was worse was that most of the students were the best in the outer yard. As a result, compared to previous years, there would be much fewer outer yard students entering the inner yard, and the quality would also be much worse. When the students of the inner yard entered the essence yard, there was no doubt that the students of the inner yard would be a grade lower than those of the other 5 yards. This was no different from Duancheng. The sage master of the yard and even the leader of the yard who rarely showed up would be alarmed. Once the investigation was carried out, the 3 of them would definitely not be able to escape. Even if the yard turned black and white in the end and put all the blame on Wild Dog, they would definitely be severely punished secretly. In addition, even if they could fool people on the surface, how could they fool people with discerning eyes and make the students believe them? Although the students didn't say anything, they definitely despised the 3 of them in their hearts, and even hated them. What made the 3 of them sad was that they couldn't do anything to Wild Dog in the end, because Wild Dog controlled the seal of a space-time passage in the Sky Yard. The consequences of forcing Wild Dog to rebel were very serious. Humph, I thought Xia Wanjin was very powerful. So what if he has 4 demons as slaves? He is still very afraid of Chu Yang. He is really shameless to put on such a high attitude and look down on Chu Yang, but what happened in the end? He still used human lives to test Chu Yang's background. This ability is really amazing. I admire it very much. In the future, if I see Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, Xiao Chang'e, and Xiong Longxiang's noble faces, I will probably be so disgusted that I want to vomit. What genius! What genius! They are all just scumbags. They don't have any ability, but they still put on such a high attitude and are so arrogant. It's really laughable. The students who had been talking suddenly quieted down. They didn't know when, but the people who had been scolding them had all arrived. Sage Merged Soul, Sage Transcendence, Sage Nirvana, Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, Xiao Chang'e, Xiong Longxiang, all 7 of them were present. The 7 of them all had unsightly expressions on their faces. Killing intent filled the air. The 7 of them were all scolded as hypocrites, shameless, and shameless. They lost all face and were reduced to laughingstocks. The 7 of them also saw the stone tablet that Chu Yang had erected, as well as the words on it. First, there was the explanation of thanks. It seemed that Chu Yang was afraid that there was an illiterate person among the 7 of them. Thanks referred to public thanks. Usually, at the end of the story, the name of the person or group to be thanked was listed. Your humble servant, Chu Yang, is a man of great wealth. I set up a monument to express my gratitude. I would like to thank Sage Merged Soul, Sage Transcendence, and Sage Nirvana for their help in gathering so many cannon fodders here to test my firepower. I am deeply honored and would like to express my deep gratitude once again. Of course, I also want to thank Sky Academy TV, Xia Jinwan TV, Liu Yunpeng TV, Xiao Chang'e, Xiong Longxiang, and other TVs. It was your unstinting efforts, your painstaking efforts, and your great help that contributed to such a grand occasion. I also sincerely express my gratitude to you and your whole family. Chapter 1377. What kind of mockery was this? What kind of mockery was this? No words could describe it. No words could describe how angry the 7 of them were and how they felt. Maybe there was one thing that could rumble. The Ming Xie stone tablet that Chu Yang was standing on suddenly exploded completely. Fine powder flew everywhere and filled the air. The 7 of them didn't know who did it. Maybe the 7 of them did it at the same time just now. This was based on inference. The 7 of them were angry and ashamed at the same time. Naturally, their venting could be done at the same time. Therefore, this was theoretically true. Many students of the outer court of the Sky Academy thought so, but no one dared to speak out. At this moment, each of them felt that there seemed to be 7 tigers coming down from the mountain to eat people, or 7 demons appearing around them. That kind of rage, that kind of insidiousness, and that kind of killing intent could not be described in words. Maybe they had reached the extreme. This definition should not be wrong. If it were anyone else, they would have thought of all kinds of schemes, thought of all kinds of beautiful things, and wanted to do something to a dog. However, in the end, they were ridiculed and ridiculed by a dog. Would it be enough to just explode in anger? Chu Chi-ren, expert at irritating people. Soon, Chu Yang had a new feature and a new symbol in the hearts of the crowd. If Chu Yang knew about this, his face would probably be filled with glory, and he would laugh a couple of times. Later, the crowd immediately found that they had given Chu Yang such a nickname. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. At the moment when the thanking stele burst into pieces, the light of the formation shone, and then a line of words appeared on the stele. I know you are like this. You will be extremely excited when you see me. It turns out that my guess is right. Please give me a round of applause and cheers to show your respect to this genius. Haha. The students didn't dare to laugh on the surface, but they were laughing crazily in their hearts. It turned out that this was a series of ridicule, Soul-melting sage and the other 7 people, like prey, fell into the trap arranged by the hunter. They must be more excited now, and their emotions must be extremely rich and strong. Perhaps the 7 of them had never felt such intense emotions in their entire lives. As for Chu Yang, people only had one evaluation: you're awesome. The students were filled with malice towards Sage Merged Souls group of 7. It could be said that they hated them. If they hadn't been lucky enough to not become one of the cannon fodders, they would have already become corpses and died here. How would they have been able to witness such a wonderful scene? Quite a few people saw Sage Merged Soul and the others trembling, their faces flushed red, and their faces distorted. They could even hear the sound of their teeth chattering. Unable to hold it in any longer, they began to laugh loudly. Ha ha. Sounds of laughter came from all directions. Sage Merged Soul and the other 6 heard the laughter and immediately saw people rolling on the ground laughing. At this moment, Xia Wanjin felt like he was a beggar pretending to be an emperor. His arrogant heart was riddled with holes. Liu Yunpeng, on the other hand, was like a braggart. He said that the cows flying in the sky were all cows raised by his family. Xiao Chang'e, on the other hand, was like saying that all the women in the world were his, but people knew that he was actually a bachelor. They generally felt like this. How arrogant their words were before was how laughable it was now. They were too ashamed to show their faces. Wild dog, do you dare to come out and fight? Xia Wanjin was the first to roar. His voice was like thunder, rumbling in the surroundings. Chapter 1378. The light of the formation shone again. Then, the formation seal changed again, and a line of words appeared. Instantly, those who couldn't hold back their laughter missed a joke, and those who could hold back their laughter had another joke to laugh about. They could laugh for another half a year. Hehe, I knew you guys would be like this, but will anyone respond even if you scream yourself hoarse? Also, I'll make a statement on behalf of your parents to protect their reputation. They're not stupid, but you guys are. I'm already outside, looking for a place to continue digging holes for you guys. Do you think I'll hear you if you shout like this? Also, if you shout like this, don't you guys ask your own throat if it agrees to be so stupid? Ha, some people couldn't hold back their laughter, but they hurriedly covered their mouths, and hurriedly ran out. Then, ha ha ha, a burst of maniacal laughter was heard. A great many people were already trembling. They weren't trembling because of anger, nor because of the cold, but because they were forcefully holding back their laughter. They were still holding on, trying their best to hold back their laughter. Perhaps Chu Yang still had a new move that could make them die from anger. If they couldn't see that scene, wouldn't it be a pity? All of you, get lost. Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, and the others roared furiously at the same time. They were really worried that Chu Yang would continue to humiliate them. But once they were worried, their dream would become a reality, and it really did happen. Do you guys want to kill people now? Why take your anger out on others? The formation seal changed again, and another line of words appeared. It was Chu Yang's teaching to them. Calm is based on strength, anger is based on incompetence. Admit your incompetence, cry, it's not a sin, ha. Laughter erupted again. What did it mean to anger someone to death without paying for it? This was it. Everyone had seen it today, but it was extremely regretful that they had been driven away, and couldn't see what followed. Xia Wanjin and the others were really domineering. Hong, long. The earth shook violently, and dust rose into the air. The place where Xiao Chang'e and the others were at was completely submerged in smoke and dust, telling everyone who heard Mother Earth's voice of their anger, their indignation, and their shame. The most important sentence was perhaps, "You said you're too ashamed to show your face. Mother Earth, why do you still exist? Wild dog, I swear I'll kill you. Chu Yang, I will return today's humiliation 100-fold, 1,000-fold. You can escape now, but you can't escape forever. Wild dog, you can't escape." Their furious roars shook the heavens and the earth. The sound waves rushed out and spread throughout the entire land of frost, letting the demonic beasts know that there were a few people who had already gone mad with anger. Swish, swish. Suddenly, beams of light shot into the sky from the ground and converged in the sky. Very soon, Chu Yang's figure appeared, along with his teeth-gnashing, despicable smile. The time of humiliation is too short. This kind of humiliation is not enough. If you all don't continue to be angry until the heavens are filled with gods and Buddhas appear, how can you face those vengeful souls that have died? Ha ha. Loud laughter rang out again. Just by hearing the laughter, the 7 of them seemed to be able to see people laughing crazily. Even the entire land of frost was laughing at them. Hee. In the sky, Chu Yang's smile was even more despicable, and even more hateful. Your time of ugliness has to be extended indefinitely, because only then can you be engraved in your bones and be easily erased by time. You will always remember this kind of humiliation, this kind of stupidity, this kind of sin. They were really speechless. Everyone was completely convinced. What kind of bastard was Chu Yang exactly? He could actually anger and humiliate them to this extent. However, they liked it. Chapter 1379. Do you guys think this is the end? Do you guys think you can breathe a sigh of relief? Do you guys think this is the end of your suffering? Without waiting for Xia Wanjin and the others to speak, Chu Yang's shadow in the void spoke again. He shook his finger and said, No, hell has just begun. Living a life worse than death is just the beginning. The best part is yet to come. This was a huge surprise. Xia Wanjin and the students of the Land of Frost had never thought that this would happen. In an instant, it was unknown how many people laughed crazily. Chu Yang had no end to this. He had repeatedly humiliated the 7 people. This was simply more unbearable than killing Liu Yunpeng and the others. Especially when the soul-merging sage killed people. The 3 of them were seniors. It was hard to describe the feeling of being ridiculed like this. Amitabha. Little Zen Master Fa Zhao saw Chu Yang in the void and couldn't help but smile bitterly. He thought to himself, Benefactor Chu is really unforgiving. Little Zen Master Fa Zhao saw Chu Yang's boundless anger and endless anger. Yi Hai and Luo Xiu looked at each other and didn't say anything. Stripping him naked and hanging him up to dry was obviously much better than this. Luo Xiu, are you sure you want to continue challenging Chu Yang? Yi Hai's sudden voice made Luo Xiu quiver. It was fine if Chu Yang killed him, but if Luo Xiu did this, he really wouldn't be able to withstand it. Haha. Yi Hai saw Luo Xiu's expression and couldn't help but laugh. Luo Xiu actually had times when he was afraid. Luo Xiu wasn't angry. If he were Yi Hai, he would definitely laugh too. He just frowned and muttered to himself, what's so scary about death? That son of a bitch, he's so evil. Haha. The little lowly Ji Yinyan saw this and laughed until she rolled on the ground. She laughed and said, I'm dying of laughter. I've never seen such a funny thing. Brother-in-law Great Demon King is truly an invincible genius. Whoever provokes him will be unlucky. Even death is an extravagant hope. Ji Yinmeng was speechless. She had experienced Chu Yang's methods the most. She understood all too well that kind of life worse than death. However, she realized that this was not the limit. Chu Yang had a way to make her life worse than death. What a devil! Ji Yinmeng's last words were. They were all in the land of frost, but such scenes played out one after another in different places. It was unknown how many people were laughing their heads off. Even Nirvana Sage and Xiong Longxiang couldn't help but sympathize with them. When it came to Chu Yang, they were truly scared. They were scared from the bottom of their hearts and bones. If one failed to provoke such a person, the consequences would be unimaginably severe. This had nothing to do with cultivation. It was only about the ability to anger and humiliate others. In these aspects, almost everyone agreed that Chu Yang had reached the peak of perfection and was invincible. Rumble. The earth shook again. Many people didn't understand what was going on at first, but when Chu Yang's shadow in the void spoke, everyone understood. Are you destroying the array formation? Chu Yang grinned and said, it's no use. I've set up countless formations for you. If one can't be destroyed, another one will be triggered immediately. At this time, people didn't need to know the reactions of Fa Xiong Sage and the others. They only needed to know what Chu Yang said, and then they could imagine the reactions of Soul Merging Sage and the others. As for whether the reactions of the 7 people were as they imagined, it was completely unimportant. I've said that it's no use, but you didn't believe me. I'm really worried about your IQ. What's so unacceptable about it? With your shamelessness, this kind of humiliation is nothing. Don't let others look down on your attainments in shamelessness. Why do you have to be like this? Anger is healthier, humiliation is longer. I hope your hatred is as deep as the East Sea and as deep as the South Mountain. This lasted for a long time, so much so that some people laughed until their faces cramped. Chu Yang and the parrot had been controlling all this not far away. When they saw the reactions of Soul Fusion Sage and the others, they were naturally overjoyed. In the end, Chu Yang couldn't hold it anymore. He stopped and laughed wildly for a while, then continued to tease Soul Fusion Sage and the others. How many of you have died from anger? Is it beautiful to anger one to death? Don't tell me all of you have died from anger. Is there anyone else who is angry? Give me a response. It wasn't over yet. People were speechless for a moment. Wasn't it a bit too immoral to ask if they had died from anger? Many people were curious about the Sanskrit words of Soul Fusion Sage and the others, so they went to investigate the situation. But in the end, they didn't dare to approach. They could feel that the 7 people were going to tear Chu Yang into pieces no matter what. Chapter 1380. It's almost time to disappear for a while. After Chu Yang felt comfortable, he immediately left for the Cave of Frost. Of course, he would not follow Xia Wanjin's pace. It was too late for them to fight him now. Now it was his pace. If he wanted to assassinate, he would assassinate. If he wanted to fight, he would fight. He could do whatever he wanted. It was useless for Xia Wanjin and the other 3 to gnash their teeth. Chu Yang would not take the risk to kill Soul Melting Sage, Fa Xiong Sage, and Nirvana Sage if he did not have the best opportunity. The Land of Frost was a dimensional world, and there were other dimensions in the dimensional world. There was a dimensional plane in the Land of Frost, and the Cave of Frost was in it. If one did not know, it would be difficult to find it. Now, no one did not know. Chu Yang had suspected that this might be a trap set by Soul Melting Sage, but he did not take it seriously. There were many people like him who were ambitious about the Kuanping and the space-time secret skill of the Sky Academy. On the way, he met many people who were going to the Cave of Frost. What kind of place is this Cave of Frost? Chu Yang's speed was extremely fast as he continued to fly. Soon, he entered the dimensional plane where the Cave of Frost was located. As soon as he entered it, he felt as if he had entered a dead zone. There was no sound. It was extremely cold. After entering from the outside, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Suddenly, the coldness was piercing and unbearable. What the hell is this place? Chu Yang's body was very strong, and his qi and blood were very vigorous. But in such a place, He had no choice but to use his spirit energy to isolate the invasion of the cold air. Only then did he feel comfortable. It was as if he had fallen into an ice cave, changed his wet clothes, and drank a bowl of ginger soup. His body was comfortably warm. He looked around. The sky was so low that he seemed to be able to touch it if he raised his hand. There was a thick layer of ice on the ground. The black ice on the ground was nearly 1 meter thick. In such a world, black was the main color. It was extremely open and flat. There was no mountain, no hill, no grass, and nothing. It was empty. That kind of openness not only made the emptiness more obvious, it also made the silence more prominent. Everything was extremely gloomy and dark. Even the most cheerful person would be affected when they entered this place. Their happiness and interest would be frozen. It seems like this place really was an ocean before. Chu Yang looked at everything here and recalled all kinds of things about the land of frost. He had heard that a leader of the Sky Academy had a great battle with the Ice Kuan on the sea. It was very likely to be true. So cold. Suddenly, Chu Yang shuddered. A bone-piercing chill was like a blade scraping into his bones, causing him to be greatly shocked. The cold energy here was actually able to easily penetrate his body without damaging his spirit chi defense. In a short period of time, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave once again. The cold air contains the power of space-time. He was extremely sensitive and could not help narrowing his eyes. The spirit chi defense was only half effective at most. The cold energy seemed to have the power of space transmission and directly transmitted into his body. It's really amazing. It seems that the battle was absolutely earth-shattering. If I'm not wrong, both sides must have been seriously injured. Otherwise, the power of origin would not have leaked so much and made the cold air so shocking. Chu Yang's body was very cold, but his heart was burning. Maybe he would have a chance to get the space-time secret skill and the Kuan Peng secret skill of the Sky Academy. At that time, his path to heaven divine sense would definitely have a great change. Chapter 1381. I hope my worries are superfluous. Chu Yang's previous doubts emerged again. If the Sky Academy really used the spacetime secret skill as bait to catch him, the spacetime secret skill, which seemed to be easy to get, would not be so easy to get. He calmed down and temporarily suppressed such concerns. Soon, he noticed that there was a black dot in the furthest distance. Many figures were flying towards that black dot. He also saw that many people were leaving from that black dot. The Cave of Frost. If there is no accident, it should be there. Chu Yang used the Celestial Devil walking skill to hide his breath and change his appearance. He was not worried about being exposed, so he flew there with all his strength. It did not take long for him to find that the black spot he had seen before was a deep well with a radius of nearly 300 meters. The mouth of the well was round, like a volcanic crater. From time to time, there was a great amount of cold air rising to the sky, as if it was thousands of meters high. Bang! 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 As the cold air gushed out, it condensed into huge hailstones and fell down. Only then did the sound of heaven and earth reverberate. The scene was amazing. Countless huge hailstones, like snowflakes, scattered all over the sky. But strangely, when the hailstones fell, although they made muffled sounds, the sound was not loud, and they quickly disappeared. This should be the Cave of Frost. Chu Yang thought to himself. He approached and immediately felt an even more amazing cold air. When he looked down into the ice cave, he felt as if his soul was about to be frozen in an instant. The Cave of Frost was more like an abyss than a deep cave. The Abyss of Frost. The cold air emitted from it was ancient, magnificent, dark, and extremely yin, which made the cold air seem more profound, piercing, and chilly, as if there was an extremely cold world at the end of it. Chu Yang had 9 kinds of spiritual qi in his body, including metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, and darkness. For the first time, he felt that the water spiritual qi completely suppressed the other 8 kinds of spiritual qi. In the Cave of Frost, there was endless spiritual qi of ice, which was majestic and vast, constantly gushing out. In front of such surging cold energy, Chu Yang suddenly felt that he was incomparably small, as if he was facing the magnificent power of heaven and earth. Just what kind of realm has this ice Kuan reached? All of this is so shocking. Chu Yang was extremely shocked. Such an astonishing cold power was probably very difficult to withstand, and he finally understood why so many people had left just now. This was not something that ordinary people could withstand. Chu Yang stepped closer to the cave of ice. It felt incomparably strange. Despite stepping on the incomparably hard black ice, he felt as though he was stepping on water. He could clearly feel his feet sinking into the ice. He was well aware of the reason, but he could not help but stop and watch the ripples on the black ice spreading in all directions. Then, a gust of cold air entered his body from the soles of his feet. The hard black ice was like water. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. During this process, he also found that the cold air was far more shocking than he had imagined. The heavy cold air was like an electric welder, as if it was going to weld his feet to the black ice. As soon as he stepped on it, the place where his feet came into contact with the black ice instantly froze into ice. What a heavy cold air! Chu Yang could not help but frown. The closer he got to the cave of ice, the more shocking the cold air was, and the lower the temperature was. The drop in temperature was like falling off a cliff. The difference in temperature between one step and the next was dozens of degrees. What was worse was that the cold air could easily break through the protection of spiritual qi and directly penetrate into the flesh, meridians, and bone marrow. Even if it was an ice-attributed martial artist, such a pure cold air would not make them feel very comfortable. They would probably feel even worse than Chu Yang. Pop, pop, pop. Along with the ripples on the black ice, Chu Yang finally arrived in front of the cave of ice. There were at least dozens of people around, but when they saw this extremely shocking cave of ice, they all lost their ability to speak. It was incomparably silent like death. Chapter 1382. The Cave of Frost was dark without a trace of light. It seemed to be a space-time tunnel leading to hell. The cold air was surging like waves, as if it was accumulating energy and preparing to erupt again. I heard that the space-time secret technique and the Kuan Peng secret technique of the Sky Academy are down there, but who dares to go down in such an ice cave? There's no doubt that you'll die if you go down. Just now, a fool at LV5 Soul Amalgamation Realm went down. He was frozen in less than 30 feet and then fell straight down. After waiting for a long time, there was no sound. It seems that this cave has no bottom at all. Not to mention the students of the outer court, even the inner court and the elite court, who dares to go down? Are they kidding us? Space-time secret technique? Kuan Peng? I think the Soul Amalgamation Sage and the other old dogs are bullying us. They want us to explore for them. It's not strange. What can the 3 old dogs not do? Everyone, take a look and see if Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng and the others are here. Has Chu Yang come? Xia Wanjin and the others must know how powerful it is. Chu Yang has probably seen through the intentions of the 3 old dogs, so he left directly after doing a big job without any reluctance. Go, 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 hurry up and leave. Don't explore for someone else. Not only will you lose your life for nothing, but I'm afraid that some people will laugh at you for being a fool. However, in an instant, many people left. After assessing the situation, the people who came later all left immediately. Chu Yang naturally wouldn't allow himself to be too conspicuous. So, he followed the footsteps of the crowd and left. After about 3 days, people came one after another, but fewer and fewer people came. During this time, several people tried to enter the Cave of Frost, but without exception, they were completely frozen and fell down. After that, there was no more sound. On the 4th day, the remaining students in the Land of Frost had completely lost interest in the Cave of Frost. No one else came, causing this world to once again become incomparably deathly silent, without the slightest bit of life. On the 4th night, the area where the Cave of Frost was located was pitch black. There was not a single trace of light, nor was there any movement. There was only an invisible surge of cold qi. But in the darkness, a voice suddenly came. I say, Master, shouldn't you reconsider? It's not worth the risk. It was the parrot's voice. It was too dangerous to enter the cave of frost. Little bastard, extraordinary people do extraordinary things. Do I look like an ordinary person to you? Such narcissism was naturally Chu Yang's voice. Yes, yes, yes. Master, you do not look like an ordinary person. Ordinary people are not stupid. Little bitch, if I get the secret skill of spacetime and the secret skill of Kuan Peng, I guarantee that you won't get a share. Does this divine bird care? You said it. In the darkness, a dazzling light suddenly burst forth. It was Chu Yang's eyes, which were currently emitting a blazing light. Of course, he knew the dangers of the frost cavern, but the spacetime secret technique was too tempting. Just the cold chi contained many mysteries of spacetime. Especially when he saw the huge hailstones condensed from the cold chi, after slightly smashing on the ice, completely penetrating the ice and disappearing, Chu Yang was even more tempted. After all, the cold chi spewed out of the well contained such mysteries of spacetime. If he entered the cave of frost, wouldn't the mysteries be even richer, clearer, and easier to grasp? Chu Yang had the remarkable power of the path to heaven and 3 spacetime portals. He faintly touched the edge of the mysteries of spacetime. In an environment like the cave of frost, he felt that it would not be difficult to understand the mysteries of spacetime. Therefore, how could he let go of such an opportunity? Chapter 1383. The Magical Power of the Divine God and Devil Twins. Only when both the Divine God and the Devil God died would they be destroyed. Even so, as long as Chu Yang could gather energy again, he could still create another Divine God and the Devil God. The reason why the parrot was worried was that although it knew about the Divine Twins, it didn't know the specific mystery. At this moment, Chu Yang directly performed the Divine Twins. As soon as the avatar appeared, it jumped straight into the ice cave. The God-fiend avatars were his 2 selves. Whoosh, falling quickly, Chu Yang heard the cold wind whistling in his ears. After falling for 300 feet, the cold power in the ice cave surged. He suddenly realized that the cold power in the ice cave could completely ignore the spiritual chi protection and directly poured into his body. After that, to Chu Yang's surprise, the cold energy actually split into 2. One of them regarded him as the commander and submitted to him one after another. The turbulent cold energy was like soldiers who had been scattered on the battlefield and were now regrouping. The other chilling force was like the enemy's army. They wanted to capture the leader first to capture all the bandits. They wanted to kill Chu Yang, the commander-in-chief. The 2 cold forces were like 2 armies, using his body as the battlefield. They would not rest until one of them was dead. Hey! After a slight shock, Chu Yang understood. This is somewhat similar to the 7-wheel demon realm. There are 2 cold powers in the Cave of Frost. I'm afraid that one of them is the former leader of the Sky Academy, and the other is the Ice Kuan. I don't know whether they are dead or not. If one of them is still alive, it will be a great obstacle. Chu Yang had a bold idea in his mind: his original body would enter the ice cave. However, he still had scruples in his heart. If his inference was wrong, the consequences would be unimaginable. The avatar was not frozen in the ice cave, but the 2 cold powers fought with his body as the battlefield, causing him to be seriously injured. Soon, the avatar of the demon returned and the avatar of the god entered the Cave of Frost. The situation was more or less the same. The difference was that the 2 cold powers, which were originally hostile, became allies, and the original allies became enemies. Little bitch, be careful. I don't know when I'll be able to come out of the Cave of Frost. Chu Yang finally made up his mind. To him, this was like assassinating an enemy who was much stronger than him. He couldn't back down. On the path of martial arts, one had to advance bravely, or else they would retreat. I say, Master, life is beautiful and moving. Do you have to take things so hard? Cut the crap. Chu Yang thought for a while and immediately said, Little bitch, you better leave the Frost Lands. Otherwise, I'll be exposed by this pig of a teammate. When that time comes, I'll really die in your hands. TSK. Chu Hang, this divine bird is not fated to have a pig as a teammate. This divine bird is very worried. Your behavior is no different from a pig teammate. Chu Yang wasn't in the mood to bicker with the parrot. He put away his god-devil doppelganger and jumped into the cave of ice. The parrot's heart skipped a beat, and it cursed, "#yuan #yuan. Chu Hang, you are a madman." Flutter. It was like an ant on a hot pan, flying everywhere. It naturally understood the reason for Chu Yang's behavior, but it was too risky for him to increase his strength. Bastard Chu Hang, aren't you trying to say that this divine bird is a fucking thing that doesn't know how to improve? You're too despicable to provoke this divine bird like this. In the cave of frost, Chu Yang didn't respond. The parrot was helpless. It turned into a bald little monk and left the frost lands. Chapter 1384. Whoosh. There was no wind in the cave of frost, but when Chu Yang fell, he felt an endless cold wind whistling. He felt like a yellow leaf on a tree, shivering in the cold wind. Waves of cold waves bombarded his body like whips. It was painful to the bone, but there was no burning sensation. However, the bone-chilling cold tormented his nerves even more. In the cave of frost, the cold power was endless. It attacked him from all directions, and there was no hole it couldn't enter. He felt that his body had been completely occupied by the cold power, as if it had been taken over. His body was no longer his, and it didn't listen to him at all. Damn it, it's too cold. The cold power in this ice cave is at least 100 times stronger than outside. Chu Yang felt as if he was being cut into pieces. The cold power was like a small knife, cutting his flesh and scraping his bones. If a spirit realm expert entered the cave of frost, it was simply courting death. Even a freak like Chu Yang, who could kill a transcendence realm expert at the spirit realm, couldn't withstand it. At this time, he had fallen at most 50 feet. If he continued to fall, he would most likely die. Therefore, he stayed here. At first, he didn't use the spirit soul and demon soul of the 7 souls. He wanted to use the cold power here to temper his body. The cold power was pervasive, and it was perfect for tempering the body. The extreme cold and hellish torture quickly subsided. The cold power seemed to recognize that Chu Yang was its master and didn't dare to wreak havoc in his body. Soon, it became orderly. Comfortable. The cold power was no longer harmful to him. A warm current flowed in Chu Yang's body. After experiencing the extreme cold, that kind of warmth was simply intoxicating. There shouldn't be a problem. The 2 supreme figures of the 7 Wheels Demon Territory are definitely much stronger than the former leader of the Sky Academy or the Ice Kuan. In front of them, both of them have to submit. As he absorbed the 2 cold powers into his body, he also faintly felt that the spiritual energy in his body had changed, but the signs were still not very obvious. It's not enough. I have to continue. Chu Yang continued to descend, but he was extremely cautious. He descended bit by bit, and when he reached 600 feet, he immediately felt as if he had just entered an ice cave. The temperature inside the ice cave was even more terrifying than the drop from the cliff outside. It was as if they were in a volcano one moment and in an ice cave the next. It was so intense that it was hard for them to get used to it in a short period of time. Chu Yang found it extremely strenuous. Every time he adapted, he felt like he had been rescued from the brink of death. As a result, he felt that the Cave of Frost was definitely the best place to comprehend life and death. I'll just treat it as a preparation for the life and death realm. Come, let's see what my limit is and how many times I can endure. Chu Yang burst into laughter. His heroic spirit was born. He felt proud of himself in his heart. The dangers of the Frost Cave were indescribable. Only those who had experienced it would know how terrifying it was. It was definitely not as simple as one imagined or deduced. If it hadn't been for him, he felt that anyone at the Dharma characteristic realm or even the Nirvana realm would have died long ago. Step by step, he left behind a footprint as he slowly descended. 700 feet, 800 feet, 900 feet. When he had descended to 900 feet, Chu Yang found that the spiritual energy in his body had changed even more violently. The cave in his body was completely revealed. The spiritual energy in his body was quickly decomposed into light spots in the cold air. Chapter 1385. Divine Power, Divine Spark. Chu Yang instantly understood. His spiritual energy had already transformed into half-step magic power. However, this was the heavenly soul world's martial Dao system. The divine world's martial Dao system had already fallen behind, and now, he needed to make up for it. The heavenly soul world focused on magic power and Dharma idol, while the divine world focused on divine power and divine spark. Both were a type of transformation, a type of qualitative change. The only difference was that the heavenly soul world focused on condensing Dharma idol, while the divine world focused on condensing divine spark. Once the divine spark was formed, one would be considered a half-god, or a false god. The process of transforming spiritual energy into divine power was to first decompose the spiritual energy, then construct a virtual divine spark. Finally, with the help of the virtual divine spark, the spiritual energy would be transformed into divine power. Right now, he was only at the first step, which was to decompose the spiritual energy into its essence. In fact, it could be said to be a law fragment. Once the law fragment appeared, he could begin to construct the divine spark. Chu Yang made a comparison between the two processes of spiritual energy transforming into magical power and divine power. Magical power was like a hero, omnipotent. Divine power was like a country, it was the strength of a country, it was the strength of a country, it was the strength of a group. In order to transform spiritual energy into magic power, one would need to trigger a lightning tribulation within one's body. It was like an ordinary person going through hardships to become a hero. Divine power was like a country looking for the most suitable system and constructing a framework, so that it could operate with the most efficiency. The light in Chu Yang's eyes suddenly flourished. He secretly rejoiced in his heart. If magic power is a hero, and divine power is a country. There are heroes and leaders in a country, and heroes have the support of a country. Wouldn't the fusion of the two be perfect? If the fusion of the two is successful, then no matter if it's the heavenly soul world's transcendence realm or the divine power of the divine world's demigod realm, they would all be completely crushed by me. This was the most perfect idea, but it was still in the conceptual stage. If it could be realized, even if he was only at spirit realm 8th level, he could kill a transcendence realm expert with a raise of his hand. Who? Chu Yang let out a long breath. His mind was very clear. What he needed to do now was to transform spiritual energy into half-step divine power, then fuse the two. He was not worried that the spiritual energy would completely transform into divine power. That was actually the best-case scenario, because the fusion of mana and divine power would not cause conflict. However, he was afraid that it would not be possible. Spiritual chi could only be transformed into half-step Dharma power. Similarly, spiritual chi could only be transformed into half-step divine power. The reason for this was that his comprehension of the heaven and earth was still insufficient. The disintegration of the spirit chi within the heavenly abode was extremely fast at first. However, it soon slowed down. Evidently, the cold power was still insufficient. The cold power was like water, and the spirit energy was like salt. The current situation was that there was less water and more salt, and it was not enough for the salt to completely dissolve into the water. I have to continue diving. Chu Yang began his painful journey again. Every time he fell into the ice cave, he had to experience the feeling of two extremes, so much so that his excitement completely disappeared. It was too painful and torturous. 100 zhong, 2000 zhong, 300 zhong. Because Chu Yang had the limitless body, as well as his divine soul and demonic soul, he was not afraid of the terrifying cold power within the cave of frost. However, every time he fell, it was a form of extreme torture. He could not help but roar repeatedly. Fortunately, no one stepped into this world. The outer court students that participated in the exam had given up all their fantasies about the extremely dangerous cave of frost. Chapter 1386. It's finally done. At this moment, something strange happened. Chu Yang instantly felt his mind expanding infinitely. In his perception, time seemed to have stopped flowing. The surrounding space was revealed to him at this moment, as if a woman's veil had been removed. This was a very mysterious feeling. Chu Yang felt as if he had become one with the entire space. He had absolute control over the surrounding space. A space-time gate appeared. The moment he stepped into this space-time gate, countless space-time dimensions appeared. In an instant, his entire person seemed to be at the intersection of many space-time dimensions. With a single step, he could enter another universe world and move freely in another universe world. This is the space-time secret skill of the Gate of Freedom, or the secret skill of the Kuan Peng. I absorbed a lot of cold air from the former leader of the Sky Academy, or the origin of the Ice Kuan. That's why I have such a feeling. In just a moment, the feeling of time slowing down infinitely appeared. The space-time gate and the countless space-time dimensions disappeared with a gentle touch. It's not enough. The cold air that contained the mystery of space-time was not enough. One step at a time. Let's turn the spiritual energy into half-step divine power first. But soon, he frowned. He had no idea how to condense a virtual godhead with these mustard seeds. Previously, Chu Yang could only analyze the body of the divine world. It was a rough outline. It was okay for the lower realm, but it was troublesome for the higher realm. He didn't know many of the specific cultivation details. In fact, he only had a rough idea of the Purple Mansion and Grotto Heaven. The reason why he could cultivate them was that he had to maintain the balance and the power of the divine world. Is my perfect idea going to die in the womb? Chu Yang scratched his head. He was too unwilling to give up. But where could he find the method to construct a virtual godhead? Although it was only a virtual godhead and not a real one, he didn't know how to condense it. He directly used the divine demon martial soul, the universal millstone, and began to deduce crazily. It was too difficult to deduce without any foundation. Chu Yang was confident that he could deduce it, but it would take years. He couldn't bear such a long time. Ice Leviathan. He was grasping at straws. If the Ice Kuan hadn't died, he could have obtained the method to condense Godhead from it. Then, his perfect plan would have succeeded. I'm afraid the chances are slim. The Ice Kuan, according to the current cold power he sensed, had an extremely frightening cultivation base when he was alive. At the very least, in the range of life and death realm, the cultivation base of a saint wouldn't be strange at all. It might even be higher. If such an existence was not dead, how could he possibly be able to shake it? For him to have designs on such an existence was no different from the god of longevity hanging his neck. He was simply tired of living. Damn it, could it be that this young master's life is so unlucky? I clearly know that there's a peerless beauty waiting to marry me, but I don't even have an engagement partner. Damn heavens, are you fucking playing with me? I'll cross you #yuan % yuan%. Chu Yang's mood instantly turned extremely bad. He clearly knew that this was the best way to increase his strength, but he couldn't do anything about it. Needless to say, he was very depressed. Perhaps, after I go back and undo the seal, because of the explosion to maintain the balance, the world force of the divine world should push the spiritual chi to transform into divine power. Chu Yang finally found a way, but he had to restrain this impulse. He also realized that every time he advanced in the future, he would have to communicate with the divine world. This would become a great hindrance in the future. I'll worry about it later. For now, I'll try to get the secret spacetime technique. Chu Yang was about to dive again, but suddenly felt that someone was patting his shoulder gently. Suddenly, his hair stood on end, and a chill ran down his spine. He was extremely frightened. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.